back there. We had so many chat messages, and now we'll never get to all of them. But such is life. Spread the word that we are still, in fact, live. Make a oh fucking god. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna make the Tumblr post about it, and then I'll make my Instagram post. New stream link here. Boop boop. Oh, it was for a while. It was like going in and out of connected, and it was still maintaining the same stream link, which was so helpful. But now I need a new link. Oh, I'm just gonna be serene about this. I'm gonna be so normal about this and not mind, because there's already 21 people back, so it's not a big deal. Hello, welcome everybody. Hi. And maybe it's for the best, because I was taking forever to get to everybody's chat messages, so maybe it's fine that things worked out this way. Come on, Google Messages, open up your shit up, please. Or do you not work because I'm hotspotting right now? Ah. Okay, I can just grab this link from my fucking YouTube. We are live. Thanks for being here, a blue octopus. Crystal Arkansas. The Piscord is a Discord server for people who participate in these chats and these streams. I'll give you a link in just a second. I'm just making all my posts again. Stream link. Shit the bed for a sec there. Period. Here is the link for the ongoing conversation now! Exclamation point. Wait, no. I'll make it, here is the new link to join the live! Exclamation point. Thank you for your patience, everybody. 20 people watching now. Boom. I look so greasy in this picture. Oh well. Okay, we're back. We're back. Hello, DJ on Dion. Now this is now I'm seeing people who joined the chat like later in the chat before I, had a chance to catch up. So Crystal asked about the Piscord. So we have a Discord server where people hang out and talk, and it's very self-directed. Here's the link to join that if you're interested. It is as much not a cult of personality as I can possibly have it be. We have mods that are not me, which is good, because I should not be trusted deciding what the rules are of a server, because I'll be like, there are no rules, and that's that's how I live. And so it's very horizontally directed for the most part, in terms of people making the space whatever they want to make it. There's crafting groups that people have started book clubs before. People get on voice chat and just hang out or watch each other's stream games. Lots of fun stuff like that. So I'm going to quickly kind of just scroll through some of the chat for the last video and see if I missed any messages that I want to make sure to respond to. Etc. says, I always appreciate how curious and supportive this stream and chat is. It really is. It's a really, like, the energy that people bring into it is so wonderful, and that translates as well to when there are disagreements or just different perspectives on the Piscord, which is amazing. Like we have so many conversations about youth lib and family abolition, about paraphilias and supporting people who age regress and who don't believe in there ever being thought crimes or any form of attraction being inherently making someone an evil person, and like stuff that it can be very taboo to talk about in a lot of spaces, and people are so there for it, and it's nice. So Etcetera said people canceling plans makes me feel more secure in our relationship. Oh, you trust me to cancel? Yes, I feel the same way. I like when people are taking care of themselves, and I like when I don't have to worry and try to preempt it. I don't. I try not to mind read or do any of that shit anymore. All that funny worrying about how somebody else is doing for them bullshit. But of course, sometimes the temptation is still there. So it's so nice when someone is like, taking care of themselves, and they know I'm not going to be mad at them. And if I am mad at them, who cares? I can't quite see the full size of the name of the message. I always type stuff in my notes app before sending a message, unless it's an easy answer that's a few words, because I hate people being able to see that I'm starting and stopping typing. Oh, it sucks that we worry about that stuff. Trans Peaks, yeah, talking more about romantic partners canceling being more affecting. Absolutely agree. Hello, Synecdoche. Welcome. Hi. We had a drop on the chat, so now I'm kind of just catching up on some of the messages. Lagoon Lurk said, using the time to fill out my name change application. Hashtag transgenderism. We love it. We love it. Someone said, romantic attachments make me go insane, and I love it. I love being in love, but also, oh no. Mood. Love it. Let's see how long YouTube notices the furry portrait. We've been fine. It's very far away. You have to know. So I've discreetly covered up Steffi the deer's butthole, and that's just a perfectly chaste picture of a puppy on a leash on my wall. So I don't know what you're talking about. Scrolling through the chat a little bit. Ellipses, my beloved handshake meme. Yes, we love it. I most naturally text like a 19th century lady doing her correspondence. That's funny. Laya Odo says, dating app guy sends one long, thoughtful text instead of 15 dry ones, and I love it. Unfortunately, I'm autistic and bad at reading vibes, so I can't tell if this is flirting or customer service. It's a dating app, Leia Odo. I'm pretty sure it's flirting. I think it's probably flirting. Sasha says, people don't get enough practice with healthy disagreement and rupture and repair in relationships. Yeah. And the way that you do that is you introduce some conflict into the relationship. Like sometimes you just got to be the difficult one. Sometimes you just got to let the conversation drop. You just got to disappoint the person. You got to cancel the plans and like let them have their little feelings about it. Like the older I get and the more I finally practice this stuff, the more I see it as such an important test of a relationship that like I almost kind of want to disappoint people or push back against them really early on or challenge them on something really early on to see how they handle it. Are they going to be a fake ass bitch about it and agree with me about everything? That's a red flag. You know, like are they going to get offended? That's a red flag. Like are they going to get all bent out of shape over me not managing their emotions all the time? Like that's a red flag, you know? Like I've been through this shit too many times to want to invest a ton of energy into worrying about a friendship, worrying does this person still like me, only to find out a year down the line that they have like this mission impossible laser room of social rules and emotional expectations that they haven't communicated that I have to worry about tripping, you know? Like just put your hand on the fucking laser and see what happens when it gets set off sometimes. Um that's that's how I know if somebody's worth really investing in the relationship if we're going to be compatible. Welcome, Birdie Bits. Thanks for being here. We had a little bit of a snafu with the connection for a second there. Um, Somebody said the grinder users' thought pathways are tragically blocked by 3-day loads. Yes, absolutely. Um, who is this that said this? Oh, the name on the username is too small. The elephant in the room here is for those of us who struggle with implicit communication rules, an absence of communication without any explanation can be incredibly distressing. But also I see how a lot of communication can also be overwhelming if expectations haven't been articulated. I think I think there's also an element here of like the stakes. What are the stakes? Like there is a degree to which every person has to be comfortable with being disappointed by people and people being inconsistent with them, certain people, and like not hanging their entire self concept on maybe this person I'm messaging doesn't like me, you know, like maybe that just is the case that I'm not a priority for them. So like there's an element of distress tolerance I think that does have to be in there. But it's hard to tell that to someone who is extremely socially isolated. And I understand that that's unfair. You know, if you're already extremely socially isolated and traumatized, any sign of rejection is distressing. And also, you're going to be rejected sometimes. Like, you can't be friends with everyone. You shouldn't want to be friends with everyone. That would not be a good life for you. You know, you don't want to be friends with white supremacists and people who abuse their kids and people who treat you poorly and people who you have nothing in common with, right? And having completely different approaches to how you communicate is a pretty fundamental thing to, like, not have in common with someone. And so sometimes it is the case that just you get disappointed with how somebody doesn't match your energy and you learn in yourself to say, okay, this person is not the friend that I hoped that they would be, or they are not going to be this source of social and emotional belonging that I might really genuinely need and be starved for right now. And like my world can't fall apart every time I realize someone is not a good friend prospect because of that. And it's not about some failure on me. And I'm not any less safe right now than I was an hour ago before this person left me on red. You know, like that person is not actually your make or break social anchor who's going to change your life and whether or not you're going to like be isolated, even though your brain is telling you that they are, right? Like it is so easy to be highly rejection sensitive when you've been fucking disposed of all your life. And that's what a lot of us are dealing with as neurodivergent people, is being disposed of socially all the time and needing belonging desperately. And so then every single interaction feels incredibly high stakes. But that is no way to live. Like where those feelings come from is very understandable and something we can be very empathetic to and sympathetic to. And also, every conversation that you have with someone isn't actually this make or break, am I going to survive in the world, like determinate thing. And when you bring that degree of expectation to it, it means that you're going to be less authentic in the relationship. Like you're going to do stuff that's bad for the relationship. And any little small normal human thing that happens, whether it's a disagreement or someone being busy, is going to just absolutely crush you, when the way that we build lasting supportive relationships is by showing each other grace, forgiving one another, learning how another person works and working with that, figuring out what role somebody has and what place someone has in your life, and that being specific to the person rather than you trying to slot them into a particular need. Um, and so both of those things are true. And it's really hard. Like you can't really make the tail wag the dog here if somebody has no sources of social support or safety for them to kind of learn some of those tools. But God, it just gets easier and easier the more that you have the conflicts with people and say the thing. It's so good. And eventually so many things that you used to find yourself obsessing about, you just don't anymore, and it's so freeing. And that makes it easier to actually love people and show up for people. Gavin Bell says, from the accidental ghoster perspective, I've never intended to ghost someone, and I feel awful realizing my slow response times might be interpreted that way. Got to figure out how to communicate that. I don't think that's all on you, though, Gavin. It's okay to have a slow response time. You're not obligated to do those things. And like I was just saying, people do have an element of regulating that stuff themselves too. Um, even though, yeah, communicating always helps. Sasha says there's a lot of conflict that arises from disparities in stakes and investment, distress tolerance, and lack of meta communication when things get thorny. It's exactly. That is that's I think that's exactly it. That like if you are someone who has a lot of friends and you're overwhelmed with all the messages you're getting, you are gonna approach messaging very differently from someone who is really socially isolated and is seeing every relationship as a make or break thing, and that's just gonna happen. You're in different places socially. Um, Etc. says, am I hanging too much of my self-image on this interaction or relationship? And what am I missing that I need this to go well so badly? Yeah, which often it does mean like you have social needs. Like there's nothing bad or weak about having social needs. Sometimes you can take them somewhere else. And say, okay, I'm actually going to be the first person. Like, I'm not this person, this new friend is really disappointing me, or like I'm feeling all these weird, insecure ways, all this stuff's coming up. I'm going to just proactively message someone else who I know is not going to be annoyed, or who I feel more secure with, or who I've been meaning to get back to. Like, I have some social need that's not being met here. What are some other ways that I can meet it, or self soothe, or some combination? Um, or like look at what am I telling myself about myself? Like, is this setting off some trigger of I'm annoying, I'm socially inept? That isn't true. It's just a difference between you and the other person. Sasha says it takes time and actually finding good friends and practicing rupture and repair, different communication styles and expectations to not get in crisis mode when rejection sensitive dysphoria happens. It's a trauma response and it takes time to heal from that. Like I'm only just breaking out of those old patterns that made me extremely. I just missed the chat. Just jumped forward. That made me extremely high strung and yes, difficult for some people. And but also being difficult, like dealing with that is also on the other person. We are all in charge of our own boundaries. So if you're freaking out in the chat, that person has to figure out how they want to deal with it. You know what I mean? Like you're communicating where you're at. That's not evil. That's not abusive. That's not controlling. That's just you having a crash out. And they can decide to mute you if that's what they need to do. Like you haven't done some great evil by crashing out in the DMs on a friend. You know? So that's also still okay. You know, you're showing up as you are and they will make decisions accordingly about what they're available for. And you'll learn from that. And on and on. Gnashes my teeth. Am I perhaps in being people pleasing actually being more difficult? That part. Many such cases. And I read this shit because I've been there. I have been like, and I could be projecting my own shit too. But like I used to always want to just keep everybody happy and entertained. I'd be in the background anticipating when somebody might have their feelings hurt or be mad about something. And I was exhausting and I wasn't authentic. And those weren't fun, safe conversations to be a part of for me or for the other person. Annika says, I'm realizing no matter how much trust is built, I shouldn't trust people until we have gone through rupture and repair. Yeah, I think you almost have to like hit that button early. Like, I really like, I in like dating and stuff, I love to like just disagree with someone or challenge someone really early on when I see a natural opportunity of like my opinion is just different from theirs, or they have some assumption that I'm wondering why they have that assumption. Boom, I'm touching that nerve to see what they do. Um, not to be vindictive or manipulative, but to like really show up fully and like let's get a little tasting menu of what we're like when we disagree or when I have a question or a challenge for you. And that doesn't mean you're starting fights, but like you're introducing friction. Like we should all be adding a little friction to relationships, I believe. Um, we all need a little friction. And seeing how somebody handles that friction of I'm not available for this. Just small things like Somebody invites you to a restaurant, just say, I don't like that restaurant, or like, I need it to be like, I have this restriction. Can we change the time by half an hour? This will make things so much easier for me. Small requests, small rejections or disagreements. See how they handle it. It's so good for developing your own agency and security in the relationship. It's so good. It's like safe wording. You got a safe word in order to feel safe with someone. Um, in a kink scenario, you have to know that the boundaries will be respected and where some of them are, so that you can really run wild. And I think the same thing is true in friendships. Like, you have to be able to push a little. Synecdoche says, I have this problem where when I notice someone being deeply invested in our interactions in that particular way, I just immediately detach completely without even thinking about it, which sucks. I think it makes sense. That other person has made the interaction incredibly high stakes when you didn't see it that way, and you don't want to be playing by those incredibly high stakes, and so you check out. Sometimes we turn avoidant because something isn't that important to us. We can't care about everything. We can't care about every relationship equally, and even though if that's your default to any potential conflict, that's probably not a good move, and you're gonna miss out on some valuable connections doing that. Like, I think if you realize a really big disjoint and you're like, oh, this is just not what I want out of this relationship, I think it is actually okay to recognize that and behave accordingly. Etcetera says, having experienced major loss recently, some things bother me now more or less than they used to. Absolutely. Closet Demon says, I need to work on this. Years without any meaningful relationships makes every day feel more desperate, but I can't settle for what's not good for me, and I can't act like I'm doomed. Right. You are not doomed. You have the power to make decisions and put yourself into the world socially, even if it's just messaging people, joining a new online community, attending a meetup, either online or in person. I understand these things are way harder when you have limited spoons and you're disabled and things like that. But if you're here participating in a chat like this, you have the capacity to play a role in your own relationships. Our relationships are only what we make them, with our decisions. And when we feel like we're like freak autistic losers who scare people, we don't speak up and go after what we need, and then we just take whatever we can get. But that shit's not true. Like, we are not freak autistic losers derogatory. We're freak autistic losers, positive, complimentary, empowering, and we can make our friendships. We can do it. But it's hard, and you're not doomed. Baby steps of saying and hearing no. Venus Flytrap. My friend with the hammer of truth recently. You do not need to bend yourself into a pretzel trying to be the least inconvenient to this person. Yeah, no. I want my friends to be who they are. I want to know the actual shape of them, not the pretzel. I don't want people to go to things that they don't want to go to. I don't want people to come to a plan when they're sick or they're tired. I want to take somebody to a restaurant they don't want to be at. Like, give me the information. One person isn't doing anything wrong by feeling more invested, and the other isn't doing anything wrong by stepping back from that intensity. That's true. I mentioned the Fritz Perls prayer without explaining it a second ago, or earlier, an hour ago. Let me pull it up. So Fritz Perls is the inventor of Gestalt psychology, and he, by all accounts, was a real cantankerous little motherfucker. And he has this little prayer, the Gestalt prayer, that I loved it as a libertarian, and I still love it today. I do my thing and you do your thing. I am not in this world to live up to your expectations, and you are not in this world to live up to mine. You are you, and I am I. And if by chance we find each other, it's beautiful. If not, it can't be helped. And, of course, there's plenty of things that are far more complicated than all that. And we do all make concessions for one another. But I think just knowing nobody exists to fulfill your needs and you don't exist to fulfill anyone else's specific needs, and that sometimes it just can't be helped, um, is nice. You do your thing, and I'll do my thing. And it's so beautiful when we actually genuinely connect doing our own thing. Yeah. Needed that hammer too. We can do it. Yes, yes, we can all do it. Disappoint someone today. Disagree with someone today. Even if it's just tell someone, if somebody asks you what you think about their outfit, just be like, I would have done that with the blue purse. Just share an opinion. That's not going to immediately gratify or please someone. Like you will, and the world will not end. It's such an empowering thing. I beg, do it. Grandcraft168 says, hello, hi, welcome. We're back to our same viewer count as before, so I'm feeling much less neurotic about my shitty internet and my dropped frames. So now, a good 2 hours since starting time, practically. Let's dive into the actual piece. I think I'm so glad that this is a conversation and a topic that's getting so much response from people, that we all have big reactions and big thoughts about how we message and communicate with people. And also, this piece is like 6,000 words long, so I better get into it. So I'm going to share my screen. Please continue sharing your thoughts in the chat, and I will continue to see it and respond to it as we go through. You can follow along with this piece on my Substack, drdevinprice.substack.com. It's called A Theory of Messaging Styles and Ghosting. Online communication tools serve many purposes, and so does silence. This piece is completely free to read on my Substack, as all my shit always is, forever. And it came up, it was published in December. So it's been up for a little while, and I haven't done a live reading of it until now, because I had other pieces go live. And so here we are. Air Gender says, does anyone else have trouble reconciling knowing other people don't exist to meet your needs and seeking people out when you have unmet needs? Yeah, God, it's one of those things where it's like, you just can't treat people in an objectifying way about it. Like, there is no person there that's going to just slot into the hole. And when we treat people like, I feel panicky, I feel unlovable, I need this person to make me feel lovable, that is never going to work. They're not God. Like, I think I think there's an element of like humility about ourselves and the smallness of ourselves and other people, and how unimportant and like small everything is, that, at least for me, helps give me some comfort, that like, this person who's not replying to me is not fucking God. They're not an angel in heaven. They can't see inside my brain. They can't see inside my soul. They don't decide whether I'm doomed forever. Like, they're just a person with their own fucked up life. Like, they can't handle all of this for me. They can't hold all of this for me. Like, if we meet each other in the same headspace at the same time and we can keep each other company on this fuck of an earth, that's great. But they're just a dipshit, like, and so am I. Like, we're just dipshit, silly little animals hanging out together, and none of it's literally that deep, like, that kind of stuff helps give me perspective, just remembering how small we all are. Like, sometimes I'll treat my cat like she's supposed to, like, be my savior, and she's just like the dumbest animal alive. And when we're just running around chasing each other, it's one of the most life-giving things in the world. But she's not a savior. You know what I mean? And I think that's all we can really do with anyone, is just like, do we want to play the same games together in this life? Do we enjoy talking about the same things, watching the same movies? Do we live nearby? Do they have time? Can we enjoy time together? And either we can't or we can, and sometimes it varies based on where we're at in life. But no person is ever going to be the savior or the one that fills the hole. does that make sense? I don't know. That's part of how I look at it, like, or try to look at it. Sasha says, I've gotten a lot better at not hanging on with a vice grip, helplessly pining for someone to maybe someday reciprocate my energy or affection. It's good to step back and find something else to chew on. Yeah, because that story that we tell ourselves like that, it's so dramatic, right? Like, that's not, maybe someday someone's going to meet all of my energy. Like, you couldn't meet your own energy all the time, even, like nobody is that exalted or that terrible, like if these feelings are so big and so dramatic and like, yeah, you do deserve to feel like you're not too much and like to have somebody celebrate all that stuff. And also, like, a lot of times people are giving a lot of love to us and we don't see it or we can't get all of it because of our own shit. And like, they're just human. Um, Venus Flytrap said, my practice of not people pleasing was asking someone directly to be more precise in their communication after a miscommunication we had. Great example. Grandcraft says, how does this apply to parental relationships? Parents exist to meet our needs, right? No, 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 they do not. I think in our world, in our society, there's an understanding that if you have a child, that child is your property. And because you have complete control over them, you also have complete responsibility over them. But that's not how most human beings have handled the challenge of meeting the needs of children. And I don't think it's an accurate or healthy way. The way that we've been taught to culturally view parents, I don't think it's realistic. A lot of people cannot be that perfect parent. It takes so many people to feed and clothe and educate and bathe and provide social support and talk to and be around a kid and teach them skills and impart life lessons to them. No human can be all of that. And a lot of people take part in a child coming into this world and they are not equipped or not interested in doing that. Like, I don't think that just because somebody gets pregnant that they are therefore obligated to meet all of another person's needs for the rest of that person's life. I don't think that line of thinking goes to a feminist place, right? Like, I think that we as a society should provide for children and should provide supports for people who are playing a role in raising children. But I think people provide what they are able to provide, and no person can be everything, and every person has their own needs. And when you think about how many parents there are with trauma, mental illness, disability, they literally can't meet all of a person's needs. And it's inhuman that we expect that out of women, especially, but out of people in general. Like, none of us exist to fulfill another person's needs. None of us exist for any reason. We weren't created. There's no God that made us. We weren't designed for any purpose. We don't exist to do any specific thing. We just exist, and it means nothing except what we make of it. We are obligated to do nothing. But we choose to take care of one another because it benefits us and because it's meaningful to us. Most humans want to take care of one another and be around other people. And we can trust in that, I believe, rather than feeling that people are obligated to be the perfect parent or parent in a nuclear family. I think in kind of the kind of world that I want to see, if a person wanted to give birth or get someone pregnant, if they wanted to participate in reproduction and that's all they wanted to do, that would be fine. Um, I think that's fine, like, I don't think anybody's body exists for somebody else's body. And I think sometimes people are great with little kids, but they're not great with teenagers, or they have trauma that makes them really shitty at certain aspects of parenting, but really fun and loving in other ways. And if we were more set up in an interdependent way that could accept that nobody exists for anyone else, then we'd be able to appreciate that love that people do have to give on their terms instead of holding them to some impossible standard. So no, I don't think parents exist to meet our needs. I think they're just people. I think they're just people who happen to have a kid and we put too much on them and we don't give enough to kids. And that's the problem. But I think there's nothing special about being a parent that comes with any obligation. And I think The only reason that we think that it does is because of a history of patriarchal violence taking advantage of women's reproductive labor and saying that they should be forced to provide reproductive labor for all of society for no money and without any choice. And if they don't, then they're a horrible parent. And if a parent doesn't provide that support, a kid gets no other forms of support because as a society, we don't value women and we don't value children. So that's my family abolitionist take on it, and my very like radical kind of anarchist social libertarian. Nobody belongs to anyone. We all have to just do our thing, and that if people do their thing, if we look like we want to look after each other, that a lot of things would actually work out better than we think without all the forcing. Um, yeah, great question. Really unlocked a rant of mine. Etc. says, with how to meet needs, I try to remind myself that I can offer them something and see if they say yes, offer or ask. Yeah, that goes back to a conversation we've had before about building community and this question of where's the community that's going to meet my needs? Usually the answer to that question is, well, what do you want to give to the community? How are you going to build a community? Like our relationships are what we build. It's not this transactional thing where you're getting something from someone. Like it's very fucked up and like capitalistic and individualistic that we even think of it that way. It's like I have this need, this person needs to go into it. That's not actually what's happening. What's actually happening is I am making choices about how I relate to people. How do I want to do that? That's all that's really happening. So talking about needs as this like separate thing that we like extract from people, like we all do it, we're all like culturally trained to do it, but that's actually not what's happening. We are relating to one another in different ways. Good luck with your audition, Sasha. Have good rehearsal time. Welcome, Bree Bree. Hi, good to see you. Sasha says, I like to imagine people going about their day and redirect my energy into something else. Devin, it's so funny hearing you talk in general so reassuringly and accurately about some person when we are all probably imagining someone incredibly specific. I've been through a lot of shit. I have been a lot of people, and I've been in a lot of conflicts with people over the years and seen all kinds of relationship ruptures and repairs and communities blow up. So I finally learned to see certain things. And I also have my own axes to grind. So sometimes my stuff is relatable because I'm thinking about something really specific that I'm pissed about or that hurt me 10 years ago. And so it's relatable because there's a specificity in there. But I'm glad it's connecting. Thank you. And thank you for all your great messages. This stuff I love talking about this stuff. Venus Flytrap says, I got this idea from Polysecure, but the idea of diversifying my sources of attachment. Don't try to get it all from one place. Do I need enrichment in my enclosure? Also a great question. Recognizing that for me, understanding that logically is one thing, but I go into attachment distress. And that's okay, you know? Air gender. Oh, you mentioned the objectifying thing. I think for me, I worry that the process of diversifying my attachment sources is somehow objectifying other people. I think I have seen people do that in polyamory, where they're really like, this is my Wednesday partner, this is my Tuesday partner, this is my person I do this thing with, this is my person I do that thing with, and like, it's really objectifying. I think it's possible, but I think if that's not a tendency in how you treat people in general, it's probably going to be fine. As long as you're really still invested in the relationship. Kat has questions. Nihilism? I just got here. Optimistic nihilism. Welcome. It's Pib says, first time catching the stream. Welcome, it's Pib. Hope you enjoy the conversation. Glad to have new people here. Kat has question, how long has it been live? We haven't even started reading the piece yet, Kat, so you got time. You got time to put it on the TV. We got another hour plus on us, because I haven't even started reading the piece yet. Going into the article now. Yep. I've been faffing about. It's Pib. Reparents not existing to meet our needs is blowing my mind. I agree with everything being said, but I'm not ready to really fully wrap my head around it because of how much reframing I need to do with my own parents. Right? It's a tough one because you probably have things that your parents failed to do or didn't do that might really hurt. And you can have those feelings. And you don't have to have a relationship with them, you don't have to forgive them. I just think also the only reason that we even get into these situations in the first place is because we offload all responsibility to children onto one or two people and give them no support. Um, and that sets kids up to be neglected and abused. So we all fail kids collectively as a society by not showing up for them and by saying, whoever gave birth to you, that's it. They're supposed to be your everything. And we fail women and we fail people who have kids in general by telling them, you did this thing, you brought this kid into your life, you have to be everything to them. Fuck you. If not, you're a horrible person. And we're going to give you no tools to do that. The wounds that we feel come from stuff a lot bigger than our parents being a narcissist or whatever, neglectful, even, or an alcoholic, or sexually inappropriate. Like, even the stuff they do that's really bad stuff that you can be totally mad at and fucked over about and hate them for if you want. You can feel however you want about it. It's your relationships. You can do whatever you want with it, and that's totally fine. And also, we are setting people up for that with how we handle family in this world. Yeah, there's lots of family abolition discord. It's something I'm very passionate about and that I used to not agree with. And I had to really move through a lot of my own assumptions and fears to get to this place where I'm now a pretty hardcore family abolitionist. So hope you'll be on the Piscord for more chats about it. Grandcraft says there were a lot of unmet needs in my childhood that either my parents could have given. Devin's perspective is opening up my eyes. And I hope that it's clear when I'm saying this stuff, I am not saying you need to forgive your parents. There's a lot of stuff that I can't forgive. I cut my dad off and disowned him and all this stuff, and I don't regret it. And also, he was a really mentally unwell person who had no friends, a hidden disability he had no support for, no support. He was never going to be a good parent. No matter how much willpower he put into it, he would have never been a good parent, ever. And why was that all I had? Was my mom and this person. My mom who did her best and was great at a lot of things, but also still hurt me because there were things she was just not wired to be great at because she's a Republican. Like, my mom was a very loving, patient person. And also, she was never going to be my everything and meet all my needs either because her political ideology is completely diametrically opposed to mine and who I am as a person. And it's society that fucked up by saying whoever you end up having to live with who owns you like property, they're going to be your everything. And the world doesn't have to be like that, So I take perspective from that. This is also helping me as I grapple with anxiety about parental mortality. Yes. That's so real. I'll grab a link to the Discord real quick. We get told that all of our attachment needs are somehow supposed to be magically met by our parent. And people are supposed to have so many more attachments than that. People need so many more attachments than that. And here's a link to the Discord. And parents die. They can't meet all of our social and emotional needs. And the idea from attachment theory that is very Western and European and capitalistic is that, your mother relationship as a child is your foundation for attachment. And that doesn't have to be true. Lots of people grow up with lots of loved ones and lots of supports, and they learn that they can rely on lots of people in their community. And that's a much more secure way of feeling and relating than thinking this person needs to be the perfect mother. and have no needs of her own and no complexities and flaws of her own. Like, it is fundamentally like this really like individualistic and misogynistic thing that we put on this idea of the perfect parent. And that does not negate any of the abuse or neglect you endured. It just means we're set up for failure. Synecdoche Key says, this has been said before many times, but I've come to realize that ultimately everyone was abused as a child because the family system is just innately abusive. Yes. Yeah. Um, exactly. I also really like, it's Pib asked for recommendations on reading. Abolish the Family by Sophie Lewis is really good. I also like No Future by Lee Edelman. I can't see my own type bar, so it's going to look weird. This book, No Future by Lee Edelman, Queer Theory and the Death Drive, it's all about kids and how we think about kids as we use kids as this symbol of society reproducing itself. And so we have a lot of conservative feelings that we bring to kids. And things around kids. We think kids shouldn't ever know about racism. They shouldn't know about sex. They shouldn't know about queerness. That's somehow corrupting them, and that's because of this. We treat kids as our symbol of the future, and we don't let them be people. They're just society reproducing itself. So there's a lot going on there. Oh, and Sasha, you're reading Hamlet. That's amazing. Amazing. That's an interesting read. I would love to see a reimagining of Hamlet that like engages with this stuff in some way. And yes, the expectations we put on found family are just reproducing this stuff. The term found family makes me a little itchy because it's like, oh, you mean another thing where people are going to be mad at me all the time and try to control me? It's like, no. Yes, the educational system as well. Yep. I like to say sometimes you can't have unschooling without unfamilying. That we would need to have a completely different structure for where kids would have a little bit of freedom to sleep in different places if they're not safe sleeping in the main place where they sleep at night. You know what I'm saying? Where they could just walk to another loved one's home and that they could come and go and they would have multiple places to get food, to be loved on, to learn things, and to leave if they didn't feel safe, you know. So there's a lot. There's a lot here. All right. Oh, we're getting into such good stuff here. And I love, 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 love introducing new people to the concepts of family abolition and unschooling and child liberation. And I have some writing on my Substack that's all about child liberation and going to be doing more around that too. More interviews and stuff. So watch this space. Dawn of Everything. Yes, such a good book about other ways of being. All of David Wengrow's stuff and all of David Graeber's stuff are amazing on that topic. Give us back the village, damn it. Yes. All right, let's dive into the piece finally. A theory of messaging styles and ghosting. Online communication tools serve many purposes, and so does silence. My cover image here is this photo of a Halloween decoration, but it's a little ghost made out of like ping pong foam balls covered in a kind of diaphanous sheet. It's a little humanoid ghost with a little pearl beaded leash walking a little cat ghost that's also made out of like a styrofoam ball head and like a sheet over it with little ears and a face. Just because of ghosting. Oh, Kat has questions. I want to dive into this real quick. I find this conversation so uncomfortable. I come from an indigenous collectivist culture and abolishing family feels weird to me. But I'm trying to understand how the variables of culture intersect on this subject. So let's clear this up right away because the name gives people the wrong impression. Family abolition is not about, it's about the family as a legal construct of ownership of property and people and children. We are not saying when we say abolish the family that you shouldn't love your ancestors, your kin, that kinship ties don't have to matter to you or should not matter to you. What we are saying is that there is a legal system created by the colonizers that says a man owns a woman and he owns all of the children that she gives birth to, and all of the property that he owns passes on to, and land that he owns passes on to his children. And the way that we determine as a society how land and resources gets distributed is based on legal ties of ownership, and how we determine who is responsible for caring for other people is based on this model of legal ownership. So the idea that a child belongs to their parents, that children are determined through these like legal marriage ties and blood ties, and that legal blood status, which obviously as an Indigenous person, you know how much that's been used to eradicate Indigenous people, things like blood quantum and shit. Like that all goes back to this very legalistic definition of who is related to who. And obviously many Indigenous nations had traditions of welcoming people into the clan based not on any kind of biological relationship, right? There was lots of freed black men who were adopted into many different Indigenous groups. That's like basically what the Seminole was, period, was just a collection of different people who had fled other, who had either fled enslavement or had fled their nations being destroyed by colonizers. That our relationships are not determined by any kind of legalistic or blood or biological relationship. And so abolishing the family is about abolishing the legal construction of the family. And it's, yeah, as Sasha says, very related to abolishing patriarchy. It's the system of power and ownership. And so that's what it's butting up against. And so that movement, itself is like, it's kind of like anarchism, where like anarchism is so fucking cool, but the name anarchism comes from these like white European people pushing up against European norms and saying this stuff's bad. And a lot of what anarchists want is very similar to how a lot of different Indigenous groups live, but and they overlap a ton. But it's still kind of using a European lens. So even when we're saying family abolition, it is kind of Eurocentric, because we're saying not that family that we have been taught is normal. And that's not necessarily the family you've been taught is normal or that your culture has. So, yeah. Yeah, Kat, my family is also Choctaw, and is mixed, is multiracial, including some black people in the family. And the Choctaw Chickasaw freedmen are just really like under represented in the conversation, and in terms of like legal and tribal rights, that there have been black people in Indigenous groups for as long as there's been black people on Turtle Island, which is a very long time. Yeah. Parents are an extremist group that can't be reasoned with. Yeah, because it's about control. Lord Eelhorst says maybe dethroning is a more precise term for this. I mean, we're talking about like a legal abolition. I don't know what the rebrand needs to be, or if it's too late or what, but like it's abolishing laws and policies and norms, So I think abolition does make sense, but when people hear family abolition, they think, I love my mommy, I still want to talk to my mommy. And it's like, nobody's saying that you can't love your mom, but I understand why it sounds like that. I understand why it sounds scary, because that was my first reaction to the idea too when I was young. I also found it scary, family abolition, when I first heard it. So, yeah, it has a branding problem. I'll be 100% for real with you there. Child liberation is what I prefer to say as the starting point. All right, diving into the piece. I've got another autistic advice / sex anarchy question loaded up for your inbox. This time from Tumblr user Precious Park, who is wondering how they should handle a major discrepancy between how they and a potential partner approach texting and response times. Precious Park recently found it so stressful to keep up with regular texting that they wound up ghosting a person they were interested in. And they're wondering whether dropping off the map on someone is ever acceptable, and if there might have been a better way to address differences in how we use the apps. Here's how Precious Park describes it. And this is a screenshot of a question sent to my Tumblr Ask box. You can submit future autistic advice questions to me at drdevinprice.com/ask or demonprincex.tumblr.com/ask. Precious Park says, do you have any thoughts or tips on essentially like ethical ghosting? I was talking to this super hot person on Lex a while ago, and we had a great rapport. But like between my incredibly tiny social battery and the differing feelings and needs of alters in my system, texting every day just wasn't working. So I ghosted them. And ghosting people in this way frequently seems to be my only option. So I'm wondering, like, is it okay to do this? Is there a better way? I will get to your general questions about the ethics of ghosting in a bit, Precious Park. My opinion is that deciding you're no longer able or willing to keep messaging someone is basically always acceptable, barring some kind of ongoing interpersonal or caregiving obligation, and that people frequently use ghosting to send a very clear message about their boundaries and available energy. But I'll dive more into that later. For now, I want to focus on the specific situation that you've written about. You liked someone, you enjoyed messaging with them, but you felt so stressed about the assumed and not verified expectation that you be available for constantly messaging that you stopped messaging at all, and you're a bit regretful about that. I think you could have communicated your way through this one, I'm afraid. From the sound of it, you and your potential Lex Boo were simply using the tool of texting a bit differently and making assumptions about each other's messaging habits that you never had a conversation about. But every person has their own relationship to digital communication tools and variable interest in the back and forth patter of regular texting. So it's best not to take your own feelings or your projections of another person's mental state as a given. Often, when there is a mismatch between how you approach texting and how another person does, you can discuss it and clear up what a long gap between responses means, instead of letting the conversation fall into a guilty, avoidant hole of missed connections, missed notifications, and conversational threads that it feels too awkward to circle back to months later. Hell, even if a conversation dies for a while, you have the power to revive it, so long as you haven't been blocked or unmatched with. All you have to do is express what you were dealing with and affirm that you want to talk again, and then see how the person feels about it. So let's talk a bit about the various ways that people approach social media, where big mismatches in communication style come from, and how to be friends with an always online chat spammer when you're a posting ghoster who's always on Do Not Disturb. Lots of inquisitive yappers in the chat. Yes. Oh my God. I'm so happy to see people interested in child abolition, age abolition, child liberation, family abolition, all these things. Rotating the ghost and communication conflict in my mind with regard to Hamlet and Ophelia. Oh, fuck. Oh my God. Hamlet ghosted her. He left her on red. Oh my God. Is that why Taylor Swift compares herself to Ophelia in her new album? Because Matt Healy ghosted her, because she has all these lyrics in the Tortured Poets department about how she had this whirlwind magical romance with Matt Healy that lasted only 2 weeks, and then he ghosted her. And then maybe I'm overthinking this, but then in her new album she talks about how Travis Kelce like rescued her from the fate of Ophelia by wanting to get with her. Holy fuck. You're driving me crazy here. Please, Sasha, give us your thoughts on ghosting and Hamlet. Oh, wow. So did Ophelia just need to work on her distress tolerance? Let's not forget about Hamlet murdering her father. You bring up a good point. You're right. That was probably the more salient issue. That's probably the more salient issue in Ophelia, killing herself, that her boyfriend was really mean to her, and then he killed her father. So she lost out on a marriage that would have secured a future for herself as like someone like in like the palace. And then not only does she lose any sense of like what her future will be as like a princess or whatever, or a consort to a monarch, then the boyfriend who ghosted her and fucked up her entire life also killed her dad. So it's kind of like flunking out of school, getting fired, getting blacklisted, getting dumped, and your dad gets murdered. So that's pretty bad. Um, thank you, Mel. That's pretty bad. Sasha says, of course you bring up Taylor Swift. What's the point of celebrities if you can't rotate them in our minds and use them symbolically? Celebrities as social stories. I'm on Ophelia's side. And her brother. He also kills her brother. Don't forget all the shit Hamlet says about women. Oh, I can excuse murder, but I draw the line at ghosting. Thank you, Closet Demon. Very good. Oh my god. DJ Andion says he did tell her to run because he was about to destroy everything. Oh my god. In Ophelia's first scene, her brother and father are also talking to her about how to guard her chastity and watch out for Hamlet. There's so much going on. Yeah, her dad's shitty, her brother's shitty. They're slut shaming her. They're telling her, listen, you might have this crush with this prince, but he's not going to marry you. You're never going to be queen or whatever. Don't give it up to him because then you won't have any future. But she's like, I love him or whatever. And then he's like, I'm a dick. And you're a silly woman, and I'm about to blow shit up. And then he dumps her, and from what her family has already said to her, her life is ruined. She's like ruined her life and virginity, and then he kills her dad, and he ghosts her. So there's a lot going on, and it's a lot that Taylor Swift seems to have missed in her lyrics. Ophelia's just a girl. Yeah. Ultimately, was it not Hamlet that was ghosted by his father? Y'all are too silly. Y'all are too silly in the chat. Oh my god. This is so good. I should have used a Hamlet themed cover image for this, is what I'm learning. Factors that influence messaging style. People have wildly different relationships to digital communication based on their capabilities, energy, social outgoingness, schedules, the digital communities they belong to, and so on. If you have a Tumblr accent, you're very different from somebody who is on whose first messaging app was like Roblox. I don't know. As a result, you and a conversation partner will frequently differ on things like which messaging apps you use, how many apps you're comfortable keeping track of, how often you check each app, what times of day you're online, which apps you treat as a high priority, whether you have notifications turned on, whether you approach messaging like a real-time conversation or like the exchanging of letters, whether you prefer text-based messages or voice memos, what your verbal and lexic ability levels are, whether you enjoy being spammed with memes and random thoughts and do not feel a pressure to respond, whether you like to painstakingly reply in detail to every single thing that you get. Some of y'all have conveyed that you're that. Whether the act of texting is annoying or restorative to you. And this is one that for me, when I got burnt out, flipped like a coin. I used to get energy from texting and spamming and looking at memes and goofing off with people. And then it became an annoying, stressful work thing. And that changed dramatically. And that changed how I message people in my relationships. Drudgeworm says, Sasha says, when I was ghosted, I would lie in the bath like that one Ophelia painting, holding my joint sad style. Oh no, I get in the bathtub and I pretend I do exactly like fucking Taylor Swift in that album cover where I'm just like, I'm so sad, I'm smoking my joint, I have my candles lit, and like, oh, the luxurious drama of my sadness. It's so good. Kat says, I've been told I am a machine gun texter or pen pal. Machine gun, that's really good. This is a really long list of variables that we can't take for granted, and they're all subject to change. I said this in the piece. A few years ago, I was happy to cycle between a half dozen messaging apps, but after I burnt out and all the major social media sites got enshittified, I stopped checking most of them. I had to tell my family members to stop relying on Facebook Messenger and just text me. I've also had to explain to my friends that texting is the fastest way to get a response and that I treat almost every other app as a toy rather than an essential tool. Synecdoche says, "Oh, are you? Oh, Synecdoche, are you Precious Park? Oh, thank you so much for making this whole thing possible. I've realized since sending you the original ask that texting does just kind of piss me off. Oh, you're gonna have to give us an update, and that's so valid. Texting can be annoying. It's okay to not like texting. Whatever your messaging patterns are, you can do the same. Do you enjoy messaging? Do long walls of text overwhelm or tantalize you? Are you willing to download a new app to stay in touch with someone? Or does the prospect feel like taking on a brand new email job? There is no predetermined value to any of this. Just talk about it. Oh my God, you are Precious Park. Ah, Synecdoche. Thank you. Oh my God, it's so fun when we get to have a follow up. Please put all of your, because obviously I use your ask as an excuse to rant about a bunch of other stuff that is not necessarily going to apply to you. And like that's the art of writing advice columns in general. But like I love an update. So let us know. Are you talking to the Lex Boo? What have you learned about how you are in relationships and your relationship to texting? What does your use of messaging with people look like now that you've been thinking about this stuff for a little bit? I'm so excited. I'm glad you're here. Understanding people's messaging styles. Most people's messaging habits do tend to cluster into observable patterns. Some of these patterns are shaped by the variables I've already listed. Others come from the online spaces that we spend the most time in or that were a formative influence on us. I text like someone who grew up using AIM chat rooms, spurts of random activity when I'm online, with long pauses whenever I step away. So I like a conversational pattern, but not all the time. Conversely, my dear friend Bridget is a Zoomer, and they text me in a way that strikes me as very polite. First, they will say hello, then they ask me how I'm doing, and only after getting responses to these messages will they bring up their primary reason for texting. Since we are both patient about long response times, our differences don't really seem to bother one another. But if Bridget really needed the conversation to be a real time exchange, or I found open ended questions and messages without a clear agenda to be stressful, then we might have had a problem to work through. And as I already mentioned during the stream, we also have a really secure friendship where we can hang out a lot, go a couple days without talking. It's really easy and casual. So I know but also committed. And so it's not, I'm not worried. Like we're in each other's lives. So it's not going to be an issue one way or the other. Understanding a person's messaging style can help you manage expectations and communicate around differences. Here are some common messaging styles that I have observed. The always online. This person seems to be active always. They reply almost instantly, leaving minimal or no messaging gaps, do not seem to get messaging fatigue, and they may feel hard to keep up with if you don't text a lot or worry that you are supposed to text more. Because you don't have to keep up. If they send you a lot of messages, they probably like sending messages. So maybe you don't have to. Synecdoche says, I am not talking to the Lex Boo. I think maybe one of my alters deleted Lex from my phone, which is possibly for the best. Okay, well, fair. Just because somebody's hot doesn't mean you necessarily want to message them. It's okay to not like texting. The multi-app drifter. This person hops easily from app to app, juggling multiple conversations and activities simultaneously. They can be very skillful with each app's unique tools and features and etiquette, and can feel overwhelming to interact with if you're a single app user. So they might be texting you and sending you reels and on Discord all at once, and in a Telegram group chat. Thanks to Tumblr user Sharadrius Nivosis for naming this one. Sharadrius Nivosis. Yeah, that's a long one. That's a mouthful. The app monogamist. This person is highly selective in their messaging app and protective of their time. They may have disabilities or life obligations that make juggling messages difficult. On other apps, they may reply very slowly or not at all. This can be very stressful if your preferred app doesn't line up with theirs or you expect rapid responses. The cat dropping presents, also known as pebbling. This person uses memes as their love language, filling up your inbox with videos, images, and links, but not necessarily expecting a reply. Their constant forwarding of TikToks is a way to say, I was thinking of you, which can be misinterpreted if you are the type to carefully reply to every little thing. I had to really learn that this is a thing and that people don't expect a reply. So Photopotamus, good homie, on the Discord and in the chat, and actual friend of mine, they send lots of shit. Like, they share Tumblr posts with me, Instagram reels with me, stuff like that. And I would get stressed out by it at first because I thought they expected me to watch and respond to everything. And then at some point, I think they used this specific metaphor that they're like, I just see it like I'm a cat dropping presents, like I'm bringing dead birds to you. And it's when your cat brings you a dead bird or a mouse, you receive that as them intending to take care of you and feed you, even if you don't want that thing, and to you it's trash. So you don't have to watch all the videos. I'm just sending them to you. I also have a friend who will send me like a ton of reels in one day, and I'll go through it and I'll watch them and I'll reply to them sometimes, and they'll never see my reply. They'll never see me riffing on the joke that's in the reel, or I'll send them a reel back and they won't ever like, they never even see it. Like, they just don't look at their Instagram DMs. And that's fine. I understand now that, like, I don't need to put a ton of energy into that. I'll watch the reels when I have the energy, and I'll receive it as like, this is me sharing something funny with you. And it's the equivalent of, because they'll also show me reels when we're just hanging out at their house. They're just replicating the experience of, we're sitting on the couch, here's a dumb thing I saw on my phone. They don't expect a reply, and they're not necessarily even looking for me to send them anything back. They're not even looking at it. And I could, like, if I wanted to feel some type of way, I guess I could get all up my own ass about how, like, they don't watch the reels I send them, but, like, who cares? You know, like, I'm only doing that because they did it, so it's fine. The aloof missive sender. This person treats digital communication like the exchanging of letters. Weeks or months may pass between their long, thoughtfully considered messages. They may have little patience for meme or chatter sharing and talk only about what interests them. If you enjoy exchanging short, fast messages, they may frustrate you. I am often, with a lot of friends who don't live in the area, an aloof missive sender. The really, really active listener. Some of you are going to recognize yourselves here. This person makes it a point to thoroughly respond to every single line in your messages. They may use the reply function liberally or write long paragraphs addressing every single bullet point of what you've shared. If you are a casual chatter or you get overwhelmed by long messages, you may find their degree of heavy processing difficult. The post and ghoster. This person is more focused on sharing what they have to say than on conversing. They may drop into a chat they haven't checked in weeks to share a long rant, then never view the replies. Hard to keep track of. They get along with the cat dropping presents and the always online's chaos. But if you are a really, really active listener, you will probably find their lack of reciprocity offensive. The midnight chatter. This person is highly active and reciprocal, but only some of the time. They may message when they need comfort, or when they're tired, or on substances, or feeling a little silly. You may enjoy the rare, intense back and forth with them when it happens, but you'll have to accept them falling asleep and silent suddenly. Yes, I'm calling you out, etc. Arian, with the really, really active listener. Sorry about it. Been there. I read because I have written that book myself in my life. The punch clock chatter. This person logs on every day with regularity and puts in a dedicated messaging shift. They may have a highly involved digital life and many primarily online relationships. An office job or disability may keep them pretty consistently connected. If you don't live a lot of your life online, you may not understand each other. So if you have a desk job or a work from home job, you might be a punch clock chatter. And if you have a friend who works, let's say, in nature restoration and they're out in the world tilling the earth with their hands, like my friend Melanie does, she's not going to text me at the rate I could text her because I'm just fucking off on the computer with my fake job. Just differences. Etc. says, I love all these little guys, though. Yeah, I think once you know these rhythms, I love these guys. Like, I have so many friends who are each of these guys, and I love them. It's great. I just have to regulate my notifications, and that is what? My responsibility. The lurker. This person is typically always online and sees everything, and may feel comfortable using a variety of apps, but they don't often reply. For reasons of shyness or a more reserved personality, they prefer to be in the audience of a conversation rather than driving it. If you require active participation in conversations, you may mistake their silent observation for disinterest. So this is the person who, in the group chat, you see their icon all the time, but they hardly ever say anything. And if you're insecure in certain ways, you might think they're pissed at you or annoyed by you. But they're just the lurker. I have a friend, Ty, who is the lurker supreme. Like, he does not message proactively very often, but I know he sees shit on my Tumblr because of some of the stuff that he notices. For example, the just went number 5 meme. Let me see if I can find it. Hold on, I can't see my own typing bar. Just went number 5 meme. Please. Yes. This fucking thing. Oh my god. Oh, hold on. Let me see if I can just open this image in new tab. Oh, this is so small. But for those who can't see, it is a completely blasted out porta potty. Like, it looks like there was a bomb that went off in it. And it's melted. And there's like melted green plastic on the pavement. And it says, I just went number 5. Posted by Twitter user Nate in the Wild. And I posted this, or I reshared it on Tumblr one day. And my friend Ty texted me saying, I live right next to the just went number 5 porta potty. It's right by my house. It's in Chicago. And I can't remember the last time Ty texted me about something like I owe him, like, we should like hang out and catch a movie or something, like, and it's just through mutual not initiating. And like, but he sees stuff. He is not chatting, but he sees it all, including just went number 5. And I'm so glad that he did. I'm so glad that Ty is the lurker, because now sometimes I will just reblog some dumb shit on Tumblr, and I can put in the tags like, you see this, Ty? And I know he's fucking seeing it because he's the lurker. He's online, but he doesn't talk like that. But I'm so, like, I'm still screaming. Like, I feel like, you know, it's like I know somebody who knows somebody famous. Like he saw the just went number 5 toilet. How lucky. Oh, love it to death. Do they have the lore on while this happened? No. Someone went number 5. I also love like counting what each of the numbers would be. Obviously, 1 is piss. Let me go back to this tab. 1 is piss, 2 is shit. 3 is what? Cum? 4 is crying or sneezing? I don't know. What's 3 must be coming. 4 is vomit. And number 5 is whatever this is. Like, what is what number? I love thinking about that. Oh, it's so good. I just went number 5. It's one of my favorite things I've seen in like literal years. It's so good. The lurker. The person who hates written communication. This person replies minimally to messages and strongly prefers real-time conversation or voice threads. They may have a disability like dyslexia or lack confidence in their writing abilities and may use reaction images or emojis instead. They could also be a person who's on the move, like friends who have jobs where you have to drive. A lot of them prefer to use voice threads. If you prefer heavy processing via text, you may find it difficult to communicate with them. Notice here that I'm describing every messaging style in terms of your observations and reactions to them as an outside observer. I've done this because it's impossible to actually know what is motivating another person unless they tell you. And for our purposes, what you notice and feel about another person's messaging style and what you choose to do with that information is what you have access to and control over. So, in some ways, we are not taking the other person's side. We're doing the opposite of cognitive behavioral therapy here, where, like, I'm not trying to tell you to question your every reaction and thought, because what matters is articulating what you need and how to communicate that in this context. But of course, in the real world, these patterns are not actual set in stone personality types. They are just trends in how a person interacts with you. And you get to choose whether you want to continue participating in that kind of relationship or not. If a friend or potential partner's messaging style is challenging for you, it's probably time to communicate about it. That's if the relationship is one you find worthwhile and you're willing to put the work into processing about it, that is. And that is also a communication demand. Talking about the relationship is a communication demand. And if you're already having trouble keeping up with texts, maybe you don't want to do that. In which case, ghosting is a perfectly reasonable allocation of your energy and a very honest one. Like, if you don't give a fuck about someone, don't text them. And it's okay to not give a fuck about someone. Like, you can't love everyone. You're not Jesus, you know? No one's Jesus. So, you know, and a lot of us are trying to not be Christians anyway, you know what I mean? So, or are not, and we're never. The next image is a photo from Unsplash by Ku Akura. It's just kind of a messaging bubble back and forth in kind of light, kind of periwinkle and fuchsia colors with the actual text messages removed. So just kind of an abstract image of texts being exchanged. Synecdoche says, I've mostly realized I suck at talking to people I met one-on-one. I really prefer meeting people in groups and then choosing people I'm interested in out of the group to talk to more privately. That's cool. So then, yeah, it seems like Lex is probably not the mode of dating for you. That it would be probably more like optimal to do some kind of shared activity or club or thing like that, or meet through friends and parties and stuff like that, and develop relationships that way. And we don't have enough of that today. It is more socially draining to have one-on-one interactions. It really is. Because you can feel like you have to be on and attentive the whole fucking time and have a response to everything, which means there's a lot more just filling the air and fawning and stuff, or just fakeness or just awkward moments. Whereas like a friend hang where you can just be on the floor doing your thing and speak up when you want to speak up is really nice. And we need more of that. We really do. We need community. One-on-one hangouts are not a replacement for community. Got some people saying which texting styles they have. Sasha says that it's very loud when it's been drinking and messaging. Me too. I get silly. I'm every texter. It's all in me. Yeah, pebble spam is penguin pebbling. Yes. Mavellan says, I used to have a family group chat that was me, my sisters, my mom, my sister's partner, plus another friend of my sister's who was an audience to our nonsense. I love that. When somebody, there's just like, just the one normal guy there. There's hand sanitizer in porta potties these days. So keep that in mind. Sometimes I will just use a random porta potty on the street in Chicago because I need to go number 5. Birdie Bit says, I kind of like categorizing like this. I know enough to know I may never be actually rid of people pleasing or anticipating. I got good at it for a reason. Masking and stuff, these are skills. And I like that have become such a strong observer of human behavior. And you can use it for kind of fun things like this that aren't bad for anybody. 3 is liquid. 3 is liquid 2. So 3 is liquid shit, 4 is vomit, and 5 is when it's so uncontrollable you just explode. Birdie Bit says, mapping it out, these styles helps me to think about how to use it effectively and intentionally and figure out when I need to maybe use a different skill. Yeah, because you can also choose to message in these modes. Like, I have some people who send tons of messages and I can't keep up. And so I choose to treat them in a punch clock chatter way, for example. Like, you can drift in and out of these modes of being depending on how you want to relate to someone. Like, I really like this idea of social interactions as play. What game is this person playing? And what game do you want to play? And how can you play together? That's all a conversation is we're playing, you know? Like, we're playing it, talking about something. What do you want to talk about? If you like food, let's talk about food. You know, if you like video games, let's talk about video games. If you like debate, let's fight. You know, we're just playing. We're just playing toys, and the toys is words. I might be Jesus, says it's Pib. Well, welcome. Thank you. Thank you for whatever you did or did not do. Five is what killed Elvis. Oh, that's good. Someone should edit that tweet so that it says that. Very good. Character classes in a video game. Yeah, absolutely. Toys as words. Communicating about a mismatch in messaging styles. People sometimes ghost because they and a conversation partner differ too dramatically on how they use the apps. And that's fair enough if a large difference is a deal breaker. Ghosting is a tool, and a lack of a reply is a message of a kind, albeit one that is quite open to interpretation. But if you like the person and enjoy the conversation you have with them, you can just lay out how you like to exchange messages and check in with the person about how they do as well. Sometimes all it takes is a little reassurance that your conversation partner is not angry with you for taking a few days or weeks to reply, to get you comfortable enough to express yourself authentically. On the flip side, if your potential Lex Boo was getting anxious that your slow response times meant you weren't genuinely interested in them, then knowing you're just not a big texter could help them understand that that's what's going on and that it's just a matter of personal preference, not a relational issue. Of course, we now know your situation, Precious Park, is a little bit different, and that you decided that one-on-one messaging just isn't for you, which is also totally fair. All you really have to do is give the person information that helps them know what to expect from you, so that they can make their own decisions about whether messaging you is something they are up for. Barring some kind of caretaking obligation or similar responsibility or commitment, you should not make demands about how frequently a person messages you or how they express themselves, I think. Remember, boundaries are a thing you do, that you maintain for yourself. So if you are annoyed by constant notifications, it is your job to turn them off. And if going 3 hours without a reply makes you anxious, it is generally your job to manage that. Here are some example scripts for some example scenarios. Hey, just so you know, I don't check this app very often, but I'm enjoying talking to you. Do you want to text me? Here's my number. I know it's been a while since my last message. I like to focus on responding when I can give it my full attention. I just wanted you to know so you don't think a long silence means I am not interested. I've been really busy, burnt out, etc., and not checking this app. But it's great to hear from you. How did that thing you told me about months ago turn out? I am a big double texter and love sending lots of memes, but don't feel any pressure to reciprocate. It just means I was thinking about you. Hearing this got rid of a lot of my guilt as a really, really active listener with friends who are cat dropping presents. Hearing that actually they just love messaging me and they are just getting something pleasurable out of messaging me, regardless of whether I reply, tripped me the fuck out. It was like, whoa. Some people just love to love. Unreal. How beautiful. Some people just love to love you and you don't have to give anything back. All you have to do is receive the love. It's crazy. And it reduced my anxiety so much. Sasha says Polonius would use Bitmojis between essay texts. Yes. Yes, he's such a boomer. I find it easier to express difficult feelings over text compared to a face-to-face conversation. I hope that you can accommodate this. How do you like discussing tough topics? I can't promise I'll respond to messages quickly. Keeping a limit on how often I'm online is important for my well-being. I don't reply often because I don't always know what to say. But please understand that if I'm seeing the messages and reacting to them, that is me being there in the room with you and listening to you. So if somebody just thumbs ups, doesn't mean they think you suck. If you need a quicker response from me or it's an urgent question, message me on specific app. I love chatting throughout the day, and in my ideal world, my partner would feel the same way. I don't always have much to say, but I like playing online Scrabble or Pokemon Go or hanging out in a voice call together. I love hearing your thoughts on things. Please message me as much as you like. This is something actually similar to a conversation that me and Annika at Trans Peaks had, where she told me that she likes just hearing what's going on in her friends' lives, like, and that's a really helpful thing even when times are tough. Like my instinct when somebody is having a hard time, especially specifically, is to think, oh, I need to erase all my needs. I need to just focus on what's going to make them feel better and listening to them and validating them and echoing what they're saying back to them and active listening and all that shit. Like, I can't tell them about my stupid crush or like my stupid fight that I'm having with someone or like whatever stupid shit I'm doing, like this outfit I just bought. Like, it's so small, it's so unimportant. Like, my life is so easy. Like, how dare I share this small stuff? But no, it turns out a lot of times that stuff is really grounding. Like, if you're not like if you care about somebody and they're your friend, you want to know what they're doing and you like picturing what they're doing and knowing, and it's comforting. And I know that's true for me. Like when I've been really depressed, knowing getting a little window into the rest of the world out there is really nice. Um like it's nice to see there's other things going on. Life is going on. People are walking their dogs and getting haircuts and whatever. Um and there is a life outside of this thing. Transpeak says, yeah, when I'm going through it and someone is just focused on validating me, it makes me feel like I'm too much and it's not reciprocal. Plus, it's just nice to know life exists outside of whatever crisis I'm managing. Yeah, exactly. And it makes so much sense. And I often feel the same way. Like, I want to talk about the stuff that's on my mind, but like, then I feel really embarrassed and guilty and and it's nice to have the person just treat me like a human being. So you'd think I would know, but I had to be told it how to be your friend better. So I think a lot of people probably feel that way. And Photo also has told me before that like they they like just picturing what their friends are doing throughout the day. That they were like talking about a mutual friend who they lived with briefly, and they're like, now that I don't live with them, I just wish I could see them going around the house doing their little things. and and they were like, I don't know what your day to day looks like. We've been friends for years, and I don't know what your daily like schedule is like or your habits, and I want to know that. And like it had never occurred to me that a friend would want to know that, and it was so sweet. So now I know I can just tell them fucking whatever, and that's fine. So, lessons. Please don't feel pressure to reply quickly on this specific app. We can pick up the conversation where we left it off whenever you want to. I am so happy to be a part of your life, but I don't want messaging me to ever distract from your actual life. Take as long as you need between messages. I will cherish every one. This came from a far away sexual partner and somebody who I had like this really lovely hookup with, really nice connection, really liked the person, really warm, really pleasant. And they also are married and they live in a different place, and they have all these other partners and all this stuff. And but they wanted to message me and they feel like affection for me. And they just said straight up like, your life that you're living day to day is the most important thing. I don't want you to feel any pressure. But I love hearing from you. And it's as somebody who wants, there's no demand in it. It was like this warm, accepting, I love hearing from you and I just want you to have a beautiful life out there. And, if we see each other once a year, how beautiful. Um, and, I'd love to hear more, but like I have no demand on that, you know? And I just thought that was so lovely. Okay, there's good stuff in the chat here. I gotta catch up. I know somebody asked for a script. Scrolling up. Etceterarian says, um, do we have a script for I am slightly embarrassed to be bringing this up again so far into a friendship? I think you just do it. I mean, you can say that if you want, but I don't think there's any rules. Like, it should never be too late to share the thing. It's always better to share it than to not share it, you know? Like, I think I would just be like, hey, I know we've never like talked about this before, but like, can we talk about how we communicate with each other? Like, or like, this stuff changes all the time. People's messaging patterns change. So it has to be something we can talk about. So you can just say, hey, like, I've been thinking a lot about how I use texting or how I message on the apps. And like, I just wanted to check in with you about it or something like that. That's not a weird thing to do. And if they can't handle that, again, that means they are not invested in the relationship in enough of a way where they can process about it, which is information, you know? I think thinking about it in terms of like something like talking about it in terms of change or reflection makes sense, of just being like, hey, I've been really kind of rethinking my relationship to texting and social media. Like, I just wanted to like talk about this with you or something like that. Just like something like that seems very normal to me. Polonius has old man autisms. Yeah, the long lectures. My grandpa was like that. Birdie Bits says, I don't know about a script, but that seemed honest, and I totally respond well to that. It's really relieving to me when the other person brings up relationship problems and isn't super blamey. Yeah, I think it's also good to just name the thing. Like, oh, I feel bad bringing this up. I feel awkward bringing this up so late, but like, I want to talk about how we message each other. Like, it's good. I love knowing mundane shit friends are doing, Annika says. Yeah. I like listening to people lecture, Kat has question says, and I find it so comforting not to be expected to figure out when and what to say. Another person slipping into their brain stream is my fave. That's part of what I love about voice memos more than phone calls, is because I don't have to do like, yeah, oh, that sounds so blah blah. Like the active listening that I just reflexively slip into. Um, it's so nice to not have that pressure and to just like listen to the full thing and then say whatever the fuck I want to say on my time. Synectic says, my friends and I have a Discord server where we each have our own channels to just talk about whatever's going on in our lives, and it's very nourishing. Oh, that's a really cool idea. That's so cool, because then it's like everybody gets their turn. Like, it's not about like, it's my turn. It's like everybody has their space to do it whenever they want, like, and as much as they want. And so then it's not like, oh, I'm derailing the conversation or spamming the chat or trauma dumping. That stupid idea. Like, it's 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 just your space to catch up on each other's shit. That's so nice. That's such a sweet idea. I love that. Yeah, you could just say I just wanted to check in. Yeah. Being interested in their day-to-day life but no pressure really resonates. Yeah, just like, hey, I was thinking about you. Here's what I did today. I love hearing about your day, no pressure, but tell me any old thing. I love hearing just random stuff. People love voice memos. When I switched to sending friends voice memos, they were like so into it. It's so fun. You can see even in this list of example scripts that some people's needs are totally incompatible. So there is a person in this set of scripts who prefers to talk about hard things via text. And that is a friend of mine. They really find it hard not to fawn, or they lose verbal ability during a conflict. And so text is how they want to talk about things. Some people, reading and responding to long texts is very overwhelming and they can't do it because of their disabilities. Those two people are gonna have a hard time being in a relationship with each other. They just are. Those two people probably shouldn't date. Like, if one of those people is in conflict with another one of those people, it's probably not going to work out. As Fritz Perls said, it can't be helped. It can't be helped, and it's no big deal. Like, I mean, it is a big deal. It's sad, but it's like you can't. It doesn't reflect on you as a person. It's better to clear up expectations early rather than forcing yourself to be constantly accessible when you don't want to be, or forever feeling sidelined because your partner doesn't like to text you. And you can pick up on that. The real work of getting to know a new person is showing up honestly with all your wants and needs on the table and challenging the other person to do the same so that neither of you waste time compromising yourself. We get trained by the cisgender, heterosexual, allistic majority that dating is a process of transforming yourself into whatever the largest number of potential partners might want. But this is a road that leads only to lonesome misery. What you actually want to do is drive away the 99 bad fits out of 100 quickly, so you have more time on this planet with the one good one. This is a link to an article specifically talking about relationships. Autistic Advice number 5, How Do I Flirt? And it's all about this idea that, like, we get taught to play the game. Don't message too much. Pretend to be interested in what the person's interested in. Pretend to agree with them. And all that does is delay getting to actually know the person, because we're all putting on this pantomime of the maximally attractive, minimally offensive friend, partner, whatever. It is not helpful. It delays getting information and relation. And so sometimes you got to be the person who comes in there swinging the hammer, really breaking up, being the bull in the china shop, really taking this delicate fake dance and exploding it so that a person sees who you really are and you see if they can handle it. And the more times you do that, the more you get better at coping with not being for everyone. And the less time you waste texting somebody you don't even like about shit that doesn't even interest you because you don't want to offend them, because you feel like you need them to like you, because that's going to determine whether you're like going to die alone, is whether some like friend of a friend that you don't even really fuck with like feels listened to when they're like info dumping to you about WWE and you don't give a shit about it. Like, why does that matter? That's not a good use of your time. Go find people that you actually want to talk to. Live your life. I really cannot deal with friendships that require rapid responses to all texts. That would prevent me from focusing on activities that are important to me, and it would cause my pathologically demand avoidant ass a ton of stress. My friends understand that I text in erratic booms and busts, and we enjoy fast-paced discussion when we are both available for it, and we're patient with one another when that's not happening. And I don't do well if somebody starts nudging me or getting offended if I'm not immediately available. Conversely, when I am romantically involved with someone, hearing from them always makes me happy, and I enjoy feeling a thin through line of communication, keeping us in touch across our days, even if it's brief. When I had a partner who never texted back, mega like ADHD or spacey type of ADHD, it made coordinating activities and household stuff and chores impossible, and it made me feel like he didn't care. All of this means that I get along best with fairly flexible texters who can manage their own reactions and availability and trust me to do the same. If your communication needs and another person's just fundamentally do not line up and nobody involved is willing to adjust, you probably would not have a good relationship. In which case, it's fine to just end things. So, Precious Park, like, it makes sense to just not message that next person. That's not how you want to relate to people. Ghosting is one method of doing so. I would encourage direct communication instead, but doing that takes energy and emotional investment, and not every random online conversation or match on a dating app merits that. We process relationships we care about, and we cannot care about everything. This stuff takes energy. That's part of why people ghost, is because it takes emotional and mental energy, and for a lot of people, it's actually very hard to put words together. If you're a hyperlexic autistic, it can be really hard to remember that. But communication is a skill that not everyone has or flexes easily. This brings us to Precious Park's other major question. When is it acceptable to ghost somebody? And when are there better alternatives to ghosting? Here is a clip from Mad Men. The medium is the message. I'll just play it real quick. I think it's short enough that we won't get copyright struck. We'll see.
Peggy. Hi, John. Mr. Rumson would like you to put your industrious little mind towards coming up with copy for Belle Jolie lipsticks.
I don't understand. They want me to write something?
Whatever you said in that brainstorming session apparently knocked their socks off.
Oh my gosh. I don't know what to say.
You will, of course, continue to cover Mr. Draper's desk. Any writing you do will be on your own time.
Do I get a raise?
No. Congratulations. More work and more responsibility. I guess you'll be entitled to some dinner money.
That's swell. Maybe I should go and thank them? I'm not really dressed. Tomorrow, maybe?
No need. They wanted me to tell you. They were very specific about it.
Oh.
Well, you know what they say. The medium is the message.
Joan. She is so mean there. Ooh, God, she comes a long way. She's so mean to Peggy and bitter in that moment. I love Joan, but holy God. So what's going on there is Peggy, in a brainstorming session, came up with a really good line for this lipstick company. And so now, even though she's just a humble secretary and they're a very sexist workplace, she's been invited to write some advertising copy, some lines for ads for this lipstick. But Joan, the entire time, is really working hard to undermine this. She's saying, you still need to do your main job. Your industrious little mind is useful to them, but you're not getting a raise. Don't let it get in the way of your regular job. And by the way, they told me to tell you all this. They didn't come and tell you that you did a good job and they want you to work on copy. They wanted me to convey it. So keep in mind that you're still just a secretary and you're just being used here for labor. Honey, this isn't some great honor. This isn't a promotion. And this is being reflected in Joan's attitudes towards her work and people she perceives as a threat and herself being undervalued in the workplace. So that's part of why she's being so cruel to Peggy about it. But her message here is that the medium is the message. So having me, the head of the secretaries, tell you, another secretary, that they kind of think you're smart and want you to write some advertising lines, that should tell you everything about how much they actually value you. They still just see you as a secretary. That's what she's trying to say. The medium is the message. The way you send the message is a message itself. And she is kind of manipulating that to knock Peggy down a peg and make sure Peggy doesn't feel good, because Joan doesn't get enough recognition for her work either. So she definitely doesn't want some younger, new secretary to get it. But also, she's also saying something that's often very real, that how a message is conveyed tells you something about, is this a priority? Am I respected? Is this person available for more conversation? And the method a person uses to convey the message does tell you a little bit about that. Let's see. Let me check the chat, catch up on the chat. I feel like there was some stuff I wanted to respond to. Any tips for voice memos? Says Male Valence. I have to send them due to my friend's disability, but I feel like I am bad at it. Ramble. Actually ramble. Like, record voice memos while you are doing chores or taking a walk or something like that. I think that activates the right, like, you're riding in a car next to someone, you're both looking at the road, and so you can talk about anything because there's not the pressure of performance. That mindset, that is the mindset for sending voice memos. You're folding laundry, you're sweeping or dithering around the house, and you're just kind of saying, oh yeah, I did this thing, and oh gosh, whatever. Like, narrate what you're doing. Like, say what you're doing. Like, oh, I'm just in the garden, I was just thinking about this thing. I just talked to my mom and she said this. Like, really, like, rambly is kind of good for a voice thread, I find. It makes it feel more authentic. Like, it does not need to be a written message. I also make them short too due to PEM. Yeah, post-exertional malaise. Well, then that might be an access difference too. Like if talking is really draining, um, then it might just be something that's challenging for you and isn't your favorite way to message, which is also totally fine. But I think just kind of say what you're doing. Maybe then send a picture of something that you're talking about, rant about something. Casual, I think, is really good for a voice memo. And maybe that's not helpful because you're like asking for tips of how to do the thing, and I'm like, just wing it, and you want to know a formula. But I think that's usually like, and also I know you do. I happen to know that you sing, right? So like how to use the voice as a tool. So use the voice. Like use silly voices, say things in a silly way. Just be like, hello, I was thinking about you, blah blah blah, da da da. Like use like talk to your pets while you're on the phone with the person recording the voice memo. Just like use your voice as a tool. Um, Something like that. I don't know. A lot of the people that I know that like using voice memos are actors and singers and people who, like they'll send a happy birthday voice memo, for instance. Blair, hello, welcome. Marshall McLuhan mentioned. Yeah. Good to see ya. Speaking of someone I owe a phone call to, I was thinking maybe we could do like a chat and art at the same time, or even like, I don't know, even just like a voice call and like work on art together or something. Might be nice. Love to do bits with voice. Yes. Love to do bits on voice memos. I love ranting in a voice memo. If they have to be short, maybe the medium is the message again. They don't have to have stamina for details, but they just want to hear from you. A lot of people really do like to hear your voice if they care about you. It just makes them feel good. So even if it's just like, hey, I was thinking about you. Sorry you're going through this thing. Or like, I'm at the grocery store doing this thing. Like, I just saw a cute dog. Like, people really like that. They really, really like it because they like you. Remember, first rule of friending is remember your friends like you. Easy to forget, but very important. Reasons people ghost. My belief is we should accept ghosting neutrally as a thing people do and expect that at some point it will be done to us. There's a lot of discourse online about ghosting being this horrible thing to do in dating and tantamount to abuse or neglect, and I think it's a little overdramatic sometimes. The reasons that people ghost are numerous, and the meaning of ghosting varies depending on the application being used, the norms and etiquette of the space, the nature of the relationship, and what cues you might have about what's going on in the ghoster's life. Sometimes ghosting is just a side effect of busyness or stress, as it was for you, Precious Park, or in this case, also finding out you just don't like texting. Other times, it is a tool that a person uses to protect themselves or manage their energy. The second rule of Friend Club is your friends like you. I feel like the first rule of Friend Club is your friends like you. Yes. The first rule of Friend Club is your friends like you. Don't forget. Your friends like you. I know it's so hard, and I forget it all the time. We ask ourselves, am I winning at Friend Club? Am I playing Friend Club correctly? Am I doing Friend Club? Am I meeting my friends' needs? No. Shut up. The first rule of Friend Club is your friends like you. That's it. How well ghosting works depends on the context and the nature of the situation. But here are some common situations in which ghosting comes up. 1. On some hookup apps like Grindr, ghosting simply means I am not available or interested right now. And it is considered perfectly normal to let a conversation drop and then pick it back up weeks or even months later. People who are new to Grindr get flabbergasted by this. But trust me, once you've been on the app for more than a couple days and your inbox is filled with advertisements, you up texts, dick pics, and guys narrating their jerk-off routine, you learn that you can't be expected to reply to everything. And in fact, it is actually more rude to chat all day long with people you are not genuinely interested in. That is the bigger faux pas on Grindr and on many dating apps. It wastes the other person's time and your time. this is such an annoying thing that people do on dating apps where they think they're being polite by messaging with everyone forever when they have no intention of spending time with the person. Check in with yourself. Be so for real with yourself. You can just drop off the map. Maddie, our illustrious show producer and co-host of Time Theft Today, she has a spreadsheet full of people she's matched with on OkCupid that she intends to reach back out to them years after the fact to see if they want to hang out. Like, it's people she's interested in, but she doesn't have the time right now. That's so cool. Like, that's how life works. So especially once you're non-monogamous or polyamorous, like we have different seasons of our lives with different availability levels, and it's better to just be straight up about when you are actually available to hang out with someone and have the time, instead of treating them like they're like a pot that you're keeping on the stove. Like, you're messaging them just to keep them interested. You just want the attention. You just want the option. Are you going to use that option? If you're not going to go on a date with someone in the next like month, leave them alone. It's kind of rude. And sometimes we don't know what our availability is going to be, and something happens and we get surprised, and that's fine. But being fake polite is not kind. Superficially nice is not kind. Damn, and you got to act like they like you even if you're unsure. That's right, Birdie Bits. First rule of Friends Club is your friends like you. And from that, there flows so much confidence and joy that is so good for the relationship. Meanwhile, like, if you're acting like they hate you, things are not going to be as, you're not going to have as much friendship happening. On some messaging apps, ghosting isn't really ghosting. It's just taking a break. Frenetically busy Discord servers filled with dozens of channels and a rotating cast of participants come to mind here, or just big group chats in general. It simply is not realistic to expect a person to keep up with a steady stream of notifications coming at all times from dozens of people. Or for a friend on a shared server to feel ignored or abandoned when their buddy can't keep up. Social media DMs, group chats, Telegram channels, and other high activity, low urgency apps can generally be viewed as optional. And a sudden disappearance is a shift in a person's habits. It's not them being disinterested in the relationship. Sometimes a person just literally gets a different job and now they're not on the computer as much, for example. People ghost when they are dealing with emergencies or disability. This one almost should go without saying. A sudden drop-off in messaging activity may reflect that a person is traveling, dealing with a death, experiencing depression, under a lot of pressure at work, or that their hand stopped working so they can't hold a phone anymore. If a person has otherwise been responsive and enthusiastic about your relationship, you can usually assume that a change in their messaging availability is not about you, and then work through whatever feelings you have about that. I have a friend who I'm close to in a lot of ways, but they can be inconsistent. And this summer, they had a few bad things happen to them in quick succession. And they told me that they were going through it. They told me they were like dissociating. So I appreciate that. And then they dropped off the map for like 2 months. They would usually message me at least weekly, and they weren't doing that. I asked them how they were doing. They didn't reply. Fair. They were doing bad. I knew pretty quickly what was going on. I sent them like one other message. They didn't reply. I say, okay, they're going through it. I send them an invite to an event. No, really low pressure, kind of non-personally targeted kind of message where it's like, hey, I'm going to this thing. You might, if you feel like a distraction, maybe you could come to this with me. No reply. Fine. Some time passes. I think I run into them somewhere and they're like, oh, it's good to see you. Thank you for being patient with me. I'm like, great. I understand. I didn't take it personally. I know you're just going through it. Another couple weeks pass. I send them one other event and was like, hey, maybe you'd like to go to this thing. I'm going to be at this thing. It's kind of by your house. If you want to come by, say hi. A week passes. They reply to it and they say, oh, I saw this, but I didn't have it in me to go. It's still pretty rough over here. How are you? So they're initiating again. So I go, hey, I'm doing well. Here's pictures of my cat and my chinchilla. Here's what's new with me. Been thinking about you. And we just talked about what was going on with me because they didn't want to talk about what was going on with them. And then we got back into a cadence. And then they started messaging me things that were going on. We hung out maybe a week after that, and now it's Gucci. Like, and it worked because I knew it wasn't personal. I was sad. I was sad to not hear from them because I really liked them, but I I knew fully that this was just their way of coping, was to hide from everything and to not want to talk about it. And I knew that it was going to be fine. Like, there was trust there. Like, I really did know that we were going to see each other again, and that it wasn't personal. And that I just needed to calibrate my expectations for them accordingly and know that, okay, when me and this friend, when there's something hard going on, they're going to kind of disappear. And that means there's limits to what kinds of things emotionally I would put on them or expect from them. But also, it's not personal, and I can just kind of love them on that level that they're available for it, and trust that we'll find each other again when there's rough parts. So, yeah, people disappear. Their hand breaks. They get depressed. Shit happens. Etc. says, yeah, telling people keep inviting me, even though I would probably be saying no to most things for a while, being invited is important to me. Yeah. I try to give like the low pressure invites. And again, I love people canceling, so I love people saying no. It's not an issue. ZBJNKRS says, hey, hi, gay. Sorry I'm late. Hello, gay. Hi, autism. Welcome. The third rule of Friend Club is stop worrying that your friends like you and acting as if they don't like you. See rules 1 and 2. Yes. People talking about voice memos. Maybe I should not be listening back. Depends on if you're comfortable hearing your own voice or not. I love listening to my own voice memos and watching my own videos and shit, just because I'm used to it, like. But I think most people probably it would make them self-conscious. But I'm like, oh, I'm listening to how my instrument is changing, like just. Um. Oh no, the OkCupid spreadsheeter is Maddie test device. She's not on the stream today. It doesn't look like. And yeah, Blair, maybe we can do a art stream sometime soon. Maybe some evening this week. I need to. Yeah. I have this. I want to get started on the painting part of this collage I've been working on, and that could be kind of fun. Artistic bum. Yeah. Hi. Hello, gay. Ghosting can be a sign of overwhelm or not having an accurate gauge on one's availability. Back when I was younger and didn't realize I was neurodivergent, I would overcommit to dates and generally expected myself to have the social battery of the fabled neurotypical person. When I didn't have the capacity to meet this standard, I felt ashamed of my failure, so I'd ghost. It isn't ideal, but many ADHDers, autistics, socially anxious people, and people who do not fully accept themselves have trouble predicting what they have time or energy for, and rely on ghosting as their final defense. Also, some people just aren't honest. Like they're fawning. They're lying to themselves and others, and they don't know how to set boundaries with people. And so they don't have the power within them to say, like, not this week, next week, which sucks. Like, you kind of do have to develop that ability. But when people don't have that ability, they ghost. Ghosting is a tool used by women and other gender minorities to avoid harassment. If you do not feel safe turning a man down or establishing a boundary with him, noping out of the conversation entirely is often the best way to enforce that boundary. Unfortunately, many women have very good reasons to feel that they cannot be honest about their disinterest or limits. Rather than respecting a no, many men will turn argumentative, insulting, or make threats. And so it is reasonable for a woman to decide that blocking and ignoring a guy who is an unknown quantity is better than expending energy trying to convince him to respect her. Remember, boundaries are a thing you do, and if you can't control what the other person's gonna do, all you can control is, I'm not gonna be exposed to this anymore. I have dealt with a fair amount of this myself. I have very specific sexual limits that men on the apps seem absolutely hell-bent on testing. Almost every single time I've told a man that I don't want him to go down on me, he has tried to convince me to let him do it anyway. But I'm really good at it. I just want to make you feel good. Will you please just let me smell it? Are some of the really common and infuriating responses that I get. These men like to think of themselves as sexually skillful pleasure tops, willfully ignorant of the fact that listening to a partner about their desires is the most essential sexual skill, and insisting on doing something to a person that they dislike is no fucking way to give them pleasure. If you want to be a pleasure top, I need you to just throw hammers at me. That's what's going to bring me pleasure. I know the second that a man ignores a basic request that I don't be sexually re-traumatized, that he's not a safe person to be around. More to the point, I can tell from this behavior that he's an unpleasant person whom I have no respect for, and so there's no reason to continue engaging. And so, when I start getting even a whiff of that shit, I block, ghost, and move on. If you've been repeatedly victimized by men who never listen, you may learn that ghosting is the only message that can't be argued with. There's so many times in dating apps with men specifically where they just won't take a boundary. And like, even if you try being nice to them and being like, we can still talk, we can still be friends, but you say you want to be friends, you want to talk, but we're not doing this thing. They don't respect the boundary. And so you just fucking ghost them. Similarly, many people use ghosting to protect themselves from abusive partners, family members, or digital mob campaigns. Cancellings, if you will. The only real way to discourage ongoing harassment is to give it no response. This is true if you are being stalked, if you are being harassed online, if you're being canceled or criticized, if you have a bunch of people in a clique that's turned on you and they're trashing you. The only way really to discourage further attention is to give it no response. Anything else that you say or do will be mined for meaning by the harasser and taken as confirmation that they've gotten an emotional reaction from you and that they've got your attention, and that is a form of intimacy that they crave. We must reserve conversation for people who have a proven track record of listening to us, showing care for our feelings, being willing to admit fault or make concessions, and just as crucially, for the relationships we actually enjoy. If it sucks, hit the bricks. This is a link to a piece of mine about what to do if you get canceled online, and it kind of goes into this whole idea. And it also comes from my experiences being stalked as well from an ex-partner. If someone is being stalked, the number one advice for them is you never give any feedback to the person stalking you whatsoever. You don't tell them to quit it. You don't reply. You don't burn the stuff that they sent you in some way they can see it. You don't talk about it, because then they are getting a sign that they have affected you. And that is an interaction with you that they want. And so they're going to continue to escalate and escalate and escalate unless you give them nothing. And similarly, if you're being harassed online, if people are saying things that are untrue about you, if a clique is turning against you, friend group drama, whatever, don't engage. Don't try to disprove it. Don't try to argue with it. Don't talk about how you're totally above it all. If you acknowledge it, then they know that they've got your attention. They have whatever you have to say about it to pick apart and make new posts about, and it is reinforcing the behavior. Same thing with a family member that you're estranged from. If they're calling you, they're sending you gifts, they're giving you attention, they're triangulating, they're getting other people to reach out with you to try and bait you into a response. The only thing you can do is nothing and wait them out. Because anything you do that gives them any attention whatsoever reinforces the behavior. And so there's a long behavioral extinguishment cycle that you kind of have to go through, where you have to really just let them have their tantrum until they tire themselves out and stop harassing you. And so that is also why people ghost. You do not have to hate someone or believe they are ontologically evil to want to stop talking. Sometimes a person ghosts simply because a conversation was no longer enjoyable, and they've got better things to worry about. This is very common and totally acceptable. In the days before social media, reserving your social and lexical energy for the small handful of people you actually enjoyed talking to was typical. And people enjoyed many casual friendships and acquaintanceships where ongoing communication was not required. It is still possible to do this today. So think of picture I like to think of like the 90s on TV shows, like Sex in the City or fucking Seinfeld or something. You have your handful of friends whose house you drop in on, who has a key to your apartment, or who you can call up on the phone and you'll talk on the phone. That is a very intimate kind of friendship. And then you have people that it's like maybe that friend's friend and you like them. You run into them at parties. Maybe sometimes you get drinks together with that common friend. But you don't have to, like, if you're fucking Miranda, you don't have to text Stanford all the time. You can just see Stanford in those handful of episodes where Carrie brings Stanford to the party. You know what I mean? Like, not everybody has to be super close friends with everybody else. Not everybody has to text everybody else. And in fact, we don't have the fucking time for that shit. Like, as people have been saying in the chat, like, getting messages all the time, having somebody in your head all the time is very draining. We don't have to always be available. And humans have not historically lived that way. And we don't have to live that way. And so it is okay to have friendships where, like, you like the person fine. Maybe you have a shared activity or a shared friend, or you live in the same neighborhood and it's casual in that way. It's an acquaintanceship, whatever. Maybe you don't want to text them that much. Maybe you don't want to text them at all. And you just say, like, hey, I'll catch you at fucking yoga class. That's okay. Etcetera says, this whole conversation is really helping me slowly acclimatize to someone not being available to reciprocate is not harm. Even if it does hurt. Yes, yes. Very relevant, I think, to what I was just saying. People have different capacities and interests, and that does not mean they hate you or think you're dog shit or you did anything wrong. That doesn't mean they're hurting you. It's just, yeah. Sasha says, getting better at no answer is an answer. Move on to someone who does want to talk to me. Yes. They are out there. And nothing is more beautiful when two really annoying people find each other. And I mean annoying in a complimentary way. Like when two absolute chat spammers become friends, oh, it's such a relief to me. It's such a weight off my chest. When two people who are just like really, really social, really, really chatty, really like to talk and gab, and they can be friends, and then I don't have to always do it because I just get tired, like my social battery is just limited sometimes for certain things. And so when the people who are always trying to be talking find each other, it's beautiful. And I love to join in on it and be like the third party who's like tossing bon mots into the conversation, but also like hiding under the bed and not regulating my face and what my face is doing. It's it's good shit. I love when friends become friends because I put so much pressure on myself to just do all that emotionally mirroring stuff, which is my shit and my baggage, and it's like fawning and stuff. But also people like it. People want to feel heard and stuff. So it's nice when somebody else can kind of also be there. We were meant to be communities, not just individual connections. Now, I do think that ghosting can sometimes become part of a pattern of emotional avoidance, in which a person interprets their own fear of conflict or disappointment as a lack of safety, and never brings up their actual concerns, and therefore never develops the skill of self-advocacy that would actually help keep them safe. So sometimes people do ghost because they feel like they can't speak up because they have no practice speaking up. But actually they could speak up. Make sense? Unfortunately, this pattern is also pretty widespread among women, particularly white women who have been taught to see themselves as fragile and in need of external protection. So going back to white women fragility brain, which we often talk about on this here program. If you've been taught that as a woman, and especially as a white woman, that you are supposed to be like pleasant and cheery and ornamental and everybody's supposed to love you all the time, and that you can't speak up and you're not supposed to speak up, then anytime there's friction in a relationship, your instinct might be to ghost because you feel unsafe even thinking about the conflict. And so you're avoiding the conflict. And it's this complex brew of like safety strategies that women learn from being harassed by men, and eventually you develop this self-protective impulse that's like a pretty blunt instrument and doesn't fit every situation. And so sometimes I have seen, especially like straight white women, think like, oh, this guy said this one thing, or he texted me twice, I'm going to ghost him. Because it's to them like the slightest hint of a pink yellow flag. Like it's not red, but it could be, oh no, he's giving me too much attention. It's too intense. Like this could also be someone who violates boundaries. And maybe that's true. Certainly you've been burned a ton in the past if you're any woman interacting with men ever. But also, it could just be you have a really heavily calibrated self-protective system and you're interpreting anything that feels like a lot of attention as unsafety and or annoyance as unsafety, and you're ghosting someone for that when it's not always necessary. So not all ghosting is this good virtuous thing. Sometimes people ghost because they're not being honest with themselves, or honest with the other person about what they're feeling and what they need. And that's unfortunate. And that often comes from someone lacking certain social skills. Kenneth's question says, it said program like a country uncle. Yes, this here program. this here television program. Intense avoidance is a pretty common consequence of women being denied social and sexual agency for centuries. But it also can be a result of white people being so thoroughly coddled and served by people of color that many of us never had to learn how to directly meet our own needs or start our own conflicts. We're making everybody else start the fight, even though we started it with our avoidance. Here's an article that I've written about that. Well, actually, it's just a Tumblr post. White woman brain. I need to make this a Substack post. Just like collect all this and dump it. But white woman insecurity brain. You don't have to be white or a woman to have it. It's just easier if you can weaponize white womanhood in some way. But this avoidance of conflict, seeing yourself as the victim all the time, as being incapable of harming other people, being really uncomfortable if other people disagree or are upset, and so trying to stop them from even talking about conflict, things like that. And then I do have a Substack article about it called How Do I Overcome White Woman Fragility Brain? How do I build solidarity with activists who kind of suck? So you can read about that there. Many white Midwesterners seem to find it impossible to say no to fucking anything. Instead, they will enthusiastically say that, yes, of course, they would love to attend that 5-hour polka performance in the distant suburbs with you. They would absolutely be happy to go on another date to the shooting range. And then when they're alone and the reality of their feelings hit, they can't articulate that they've lied or admit to their disinterest, so they just disappear. If you say something that rankles them or offends them, if they picked up on a slightly orange flag in your behavior, if they feel uneasy for reasons they cannot pinpoint, and that could have a lot to do with their own biases and bigotries, they will just not talk about it. Instead, they'll vanish with the read receipts turned off, so you cannot even take their lack of response as a message, hoping you'll imagine that they've died in some kind of spontaneous fire. Like, they won't even keep the read receipts on. Like, come on. Talk about avoidant. To be clear, ghosting out of avoidance is not the sole purview of white people or white women. Lots of people internalize the norms of white supremacy and self-victimization that lead to it. And other sources of privilege, such as wealth or living in the imperial core, can lead to it just as frequently. But it's pretty clear that this pattern comes from the combination of holding a ton of power and never being comfortable acknowledging the reality of that power. So one has to behave as if all the covert manipulations in their life are just things that happen to them. rather than a series of choices they are making. So, oh, I ended up with this date on the calendar that I don't want to go to with this guy who's really annoying, but I agreed to the date. I messaged him, I replied, I said I wanted to go, I lied about not liking him, and I didn't tell him that I was annoyed. I never set a boundary, I never was honest, and now, oh no, I have to go on this date. You don't have to go on that date. You violated your own boundaries. And is there a backdrop of sexism and prioritizing men's time and women feeling like they can't say no that facilitates all of that happening? Yes. But at the end of the day, you got to run your own life. And you do have the power to say, no, I'm not interested. And you could have done that before ghosting. But if ghosting is all you have in you, better that than to further violate your own boundaries. Ghosting is often an emergency maneuver. That doesn't make it bad. It just means a lot of times it could have been avoided. It's far more responsible and actually powerful to just say what you are feeling rather than ghosting. And I found that when I'm honest about some uncomfortable feeling I have, it has deepened many of my relationships and even made casual ones more easygoing and honest. This is still hard for me. I still sometimes take way too long to bring things up or don't want to bring them up. This shit's tough. This shit's fucking tough. But it's always fucking better to say the thing. It really is. As long as it's a relationship you're safe in. Don't say the thing to your boss. Don't say the thing to somebody who can fire you or kick you out of housing. But if it's not that, say the thing. If it's a real friend, say the thing. For instance, a few months ago, a potential date got under my skin by describing himself as heteroflexible. I could have quietly seethed about how homophobic the label was and then ghosted him, because I was judging him when I heard that. But I decided to bring it up. I asked him why he identified as that. He told me that he didn't have much queer sexual experience yet and felt that claiming a bisexual label would make him an imposter. I was able to encourage him to explore all the possibilities for himself and to not feel like his queerness needed to be earned. Though I had no interest in dating someone with so little experience, we were able to part on positive terms, and we're still on like texting terms because we had the conversation. I could have just judged him, but instead we had the conversation and it was great. Sharing how you feel about a person's actions and words can establish common ground, correct a misunderstanding, and redevelop the basis for your relationship. I believe so strongly in the power of conflict that I made it one of the core actual social skills of unmasking in my latest book, Unmasking for Life. And I've posted a little screenshot of a page of that book that talks about one way to kind of engage in conflict with people, to ask for things. But we don't have to lock horns with absolutely everybody. Sometimes it just isn't worth all this work. So steps of asserting yourself. Notice what's wrong or lacking. Name what you need. Identify conflicting perspectives or conflicting needs. Ask questions about others' perspectives or the situation. Enlist another person to help you with meeting your needs if possible. Take action to address anything that still isn't working. That's a lot of work. If you just have some coworker who's kind of annoying you, it's totally fine to just kind of ignore them and be pleasantly fake. You don't have to do all this shit all the time. But if it's a friend, even if it's uncomfortable, we should be doing this shit. But it's hard. Let's catch up in the chat before we get to the final little sprint of this. If me reaching out more overwhelms someone, I am not being harmful and evil. Just kind of annoying. Being annoying is not a crime. Being annoying is not a sin. I always be saying that. Kat has question, says, this is why we need more Indo-Asian, Indigenous, Southeast Asian storytelling in America. Consequence is handled beautifully. Yes, we need so much just not white supremacy culture shit. Things just happen to them. Kat says, I remember being raised with stories of a tribe that went wrong. In the tradition of more commonly known as, I think I'm not supposed to say those words that you just said or talk about them, so I won't. I know for a lot of for indigenous groups that believe in those entities, you're not supposed to talk about them or like put the word out there in people's minds, at least if you're not from the community. So I'm gonna not say it. Um, it was discussed as wrongness, but the point was never fault or punishment, but that choices over time accumulate, and guarding your balance is your responsibility. Sorry, that may seem off topic. I just think it exists a way of guarding yourself from forgetting that you were the same as. No, no, I think this is a great addition, Kat. And I think from some of those traditions in indigenous storytelling and belief systems that I've heard, like, um, there's like beliefs of like an unending hunger, a thing that becomes a non-human that can never be. It's like a type of human who can never be satisfied and just keeps taking and taking and like there's this disconnection from community that's a huge part of it. Like Robin Wall Kimmerer writes about it in Braiding Sweetgrass. A lot of people have written about it in who write about indigenous belief systems. This like not being in alignment with the land and the people around you and resources, um, and how that damages things and destroys everything and just becomes this black hole of destruction. And I think that is like it is such a like white supremacy culture thing. Like we see things as resources and transactional instead of just being in it with each other. And it's fucking scary. It's fucking scary and hard to like be in it with each other when you don't have those skills or that background and you're not used to like nothing is mine. My energy isn't just my thing to own the way we talk about it in the West so much that like energy is a thing that's like created and shared and expressed between people. It's not some like health bar that like having a friend trauma dump, quote unquote, takes out half of your health bar. Like that's not how that works. We're all healing together. Fourth rule of Friend Club is being annoying is not a crime or a sin. Fuck yeah. Etcetera says, in the Jewish tradition, we have an annual accountability process during Yom Kippur that I think serves a similar function. Yeah. Yeah, it's so, like, it's so good to have those rituals of letting those things out. Kat says, apologies if I put those words out there, but yes, you're exactly right. So privilege exists as a hungry ghost. There is no feeding it. Right. Yeah. The privilege it never is full. If you're thinking in like an acquisitive, an acquiring way, a resource hoarding way, you just create this hunger that can never be met. And it's because it's isolation from nature and from other people. You're taking instead of participating. That's so many things that we've been talking about, like building community, building relationships, not treating people in an objectifying way. Like it goes back to that. It's this very Western capitalistic thinking of I'm taking something, I'm getting something I need, I'm protecting my peace, I'm getting my energy. And relationships are not a thing that you take and pull into. You participate in them. You are them. You are your relationships. And it's really hard to wrap the like brain around it if your culture is not that. And yeah, no, I don't think there's any need to apologize for you using those words. I just, out of an abundance of caution, I just know like that a lot of indigenous nations, they want you to not say it or talk about it if you're not of that culture, at least. So I'm not going to, but doesn't mean you can't. Like it can be spoken about. I think there's just really specific. My understanding is there's very specific rules around it and depictions and stuff like that. Birdie Bits, my conflict is a form of intimacy shared with people you care for. Yes, we get into conflict with relationships we care about. We get into conflict with relationships we want to keep because we're giving them the opportunity to rise to the occasion and giving them information that they can use to love us better. Yeah. I value this relationship enough to stay and deal with the problem, even if it's messy, to tell the person the hard thing. You don't owe that to everyone. None of us have the energy to do that with everyone. And you should really only do it with people that you think actually will give a shit and show up. Like, Another thing I'm always saying to people is, like, if you're having a conflict with, let's say, a relative, has this person ever said they were wrong before? Has this person ever apologized to you? Have they ever changed their perspective? Have they showed that they give a shit about you? Like, do you have any reason to think it's worth investing in that conflict? And if not, you really don't have to. You never have to. But, like, we get into conflict with the relationships where we value them and we trust the person. It's Pib said, I'm going to make a Discord server with friends and everyone has their own channel. Thank you to the person a bit ago who mentioned that. Such a cool idea. So dope. Kat, what you said about accumulation and minding your balance is also really resonating with me big. Yes. Oh, I'm going to reread it. Wrong. It's not wrongness. The point was never fault or punishment, but that choices over time accumulate, and guarding your balance is your responsibility. Yeah. Things don't just happen to you. There's a weight of our choices. And that was big in my my beginning of the year tarot pull that I did this January 1st. That the Justice card came up, which is all about owning the responsibility you have for the weight of your choices. Things don't just happen to you. Even though, yes, some things do just happen to you. But, like, in your relationships, things that are repeatedly hard or things that you lose, it's based on choices that you've made about what to prioritize and what to devalue. And, like, sitting with the consequences of that and realizing also that you have the power to reckon with it and make different choices. Again, that's in our relationships that are reciprocal and fair and equal. If somebody has power over you, this stuff goes out the window. It's victim blaming to say, oh, you need to take responsibility for your part in things. Not if it's your fucking boss. Not if it's somebody who can, in a split decision, make you no longer able to eat or live or have housing. That's not where you need to keep your side of the street clean. It's equal, safe relationships. All right. Last little push through the piece. Where incompatibility meets lack of ability or interest, ghosting occurs. I propose we understand ghosting as an often rational response to observing that there is a large incompatibility between what you and another person want for the relationship and not having the energy or motivation to work through that incompatibility. A lot of vulnerable people are very good at identifying when their feelings will not be respected and deciding to just not bother with that fight. Again, has the person ever listened to you? And every person gets to decide which conversations are worthy of their time. At the end of the day, ghosting is one of many available tools of communication, just like the plethora of messaging apps themselves. People can become unavailable or unwilling to participate in a conversation at any time for a variety of reasons. And the apps that matter the most to us will shift just like our hobbies and friend groups do over the course of life. I think we should generally move away from talking about ghosting as if it's some horrible act of deception and abuse, and more like it's no longer seeing your buddy log on to a game that you both used to play. Instagram, Discord, Field, Hinge, WhatsApp, and the like are products that are not obligatory to human life. Who the fuck knows why someone isn't playing with that particular digital toy anymore? If you have a real relationship with them, you'll probably be able to ask. Precious Park, it seems like you saw potential in the person that you ghosted. And I think you should look at your ghosting as a genuine expression of an unmet need, if a clumsy one. At the time, you did not realize that you could tell your new Lex Blue that you found chatting overwhelming. But hopefully now you can. This is your life. You get to customize your experience with every little choice that you make. You can even redefine the awkward blip of ghosting as a mere pause before reestablishing the relationship. That is, if your Lex Boo wants to. And of course, since Precious Park is in the chat, we know that what was actually learned here was that you don't like dating apps and you don't like texting one-on-one with someone in this way. And so you can form relationships in different ways. And that's great. So in that case, ghosting is the right answer in this situation. So take the risk, say what is going on with you. The only way forward is to broach the silence. If you would like to submit a autistic advice or sex anarchy, etc. advice question to this Substack, you can use my Tumblr inbox at drdevinprice.tumblr.com/ask, or you can email me at askdevinprice@gmail.com. Thank you so much, everybody, here for this long tech issue infused stream. We got a few more things in the chat that I'll quickly look at before saying good evening. Kat has questions. Wait, let's see. Is that all of it? Yes. Kat has question, says, I am immediately curious about Yom Kippur. I know nothing about it or Jewish wisdom as are shared with consent. I'm literally saving info in my iPad. Hopefully we can have a good convo. People who want to continue talking about this. Kat, I would continue to really like to hear more about different indigenous perspectives on a lot of this stuff that we've been talking about. Again, it's as you can tell, it's something that I try to study and care about and have some connections to, but it's very distant. And so, like, I don't know, I always love hearing about it more. Would love to hear more. I mean, I know a little bit about Yom Kippur, but like just traditions of reconciling things and having it out, having the conflicts, cultural approaches to conflict. I just love all of that. It helps me decolonize my own mind, and I'm so fucking happy and thankful that this space has enough diversity of experiences where we can talk about this stuff and like push against white supremacy culture, even if it is, I think, still a majority white space, with all the baggage that entails and all the problems that entails. Like, I'm so glad that I'm just always really thankful when people who are not like white Christian majority are here and feel like it's a space where they can share shit and that we're like working on similar projects together and that we're trying to get somewhere, because I want us to all be as unwhite as we can possibly be. Everybody should be as unwhite as possible. And for every person, that's going to be different, because some of us are very much white people, right? But like, we can still undo this. We can all decolonize our shit. So I'm always so thankful. Etceterarian says, I think as a highly masked autistic, I have trained myself to always try to put in the effort to understand and address and attempt to resolve a problem, often to my detriment. Yep. You can't do it all the time. It's a two-way street, and not every conflict is worth it. So, a very important unmasking skill, this would go under the Tolerate Distress banner in my new book, is the skill to just go, fuck them. Like, fuck that person. Sometimes you just gotta give it to God. Let them figure it out, you know? Let the person have their own feelings about the thing. Because you can't work at a relationship. You can't work a relationship into existing as one person. You really can't. Leaf 2309 says, I did this recently with my housemate, and he said he doesn't want to be close friends. Have social time at home, I had to accept we were never going to be closer and move through grief and confront the need to be getting close, positive social feedback, feeling a bit free that I can be whoever without worrying about being liked now. Yes, it is just like we were talking about on the last stream, the courage to be disliked, the freedom to not be everyone's friend. And like, that doesn't mean somebody hates you also. Like, learning the gradients in this stuff is tough, but very helpful. That like, sometimes somebody just doesn't fuck with you like that, and sometimes you don't like the person like that too. Like, another important unmasking project is going, oh wait, I actually don't like this person. I just wanted their approval for some reason. I made them into a symbol of whether I'm lovable or redeemable on this earth, or I made this person's friendship into a symbol of whether I'm going to be abandoned. And I don't even like them. So why am I trying so hard? So that's also a thing. Yay, we're going to have so much talking on the Piss Court about this stuff. Yay. I like to yap, and I will articulate my boundaries as needed. That's another thing. These are in the guidelines of how we do the Piscord server. You are in charge of your own engagement. Trust that for the most part, people there are there with at least neutral intent, usually positive intent. We're not enemies here. It's an anti-Zionist space. It's a space that has very particular values. And so if somebody's there, they're probably not your enemy. And if you get upset from a conversation, hit the bricks. You don't have to continue to see it out, and you are in charge of how you handle it. And so it's been like such a good, like, for lack of a better term, self-policing space, in that people will have really hard conversations about, like, sexuality in minors and how should we handle that as a society. Really tough, triggering, taboo stuff. People talking about the limits and what should and can be depicted in fictional porn, child liberation, abolition of the state, like, disagreements about political tactics. Is voting a complete waste of time? Stuff like that. Like, and people are engaging in those conversations knowing that, like, we basically are aligned on values here. And if we get upset, we don't have to stay in the conversation. We can leave and come back later. We need to have a cultural wisdom thread. There are so many of us with multicultural backgrounds could share so much info. Okay, I'll make a thread in the server right now, actually. Because I want that bad. Cultural wisdoms. I think that's what I'll call it, if that's cool with everybody. Cultural wisdoms. Create channel. Apropos of the latest stream, this is a space to decolonize the mind, share practices, share cultural practices, readings, learnings, etc. from outside of the white supremacist Christian majority, unlearn our toxic white women brains if we have them, to the extent we have them, etc. Great idea. Kat has questions. How fun. I'm very excited to see this new channel. So fun. Nooch37 says, I never know how to initiate communication even with people I have known intimately for years. Any advice for getting over that anxiety? The order is backwards there. You don't get over the anxiety and then do it. You do it. And then you get less anxious. I'm sorry. I know that can sound like, oh, just do this thing that you found impossible to do. And that might not be very helpful. See if you can find the smallest step up on the ramp towards doing that. So maybe you can't approach someone, let's say a coworker you like. Maybe you can't walk up to them and say, hey, I've always really liked talking with you at work. Do you want to go see a movie? Maybe that's too mortifying to you. Is there someone in your life who you have indications that they like you and you like them, and you could text them and ask them if they want to hang out? Or is there some question you have, something you need help with, and you know someone who they could help you with that problem or question, and that they would like to talk about the thing, and that they would like to talk to you? You have every reason to believe, based on all the evidence you have from years of knowledge, okay, this person loves building computers, and they like talking to me. They've initiated conversations with me. I can ask them this question about my computer. Ask them a question. Ask them for help with the thing. Think of like what the smallest version is of initiating socially that you can think of, and do it. And a lot of times that'll be some of the stuff we were talking about today. Sending someone a meme, asking somebody if they want to hang out. I'm saying, I'm going to go to this thing, a specific request, because that way if they say no, it's just no to the specific request. It doesn't feel like a no to you. I'm going to go to this movie. Do you have any interest in going to it with me? Send in the text, sharing something. I know if you've never done that before, it will feel impossible. But the way that you get better at it is through realizing the world doesn't end when you try it. So if you do not socially initiate, I think start really small. Maybe you're not even ready to have an invite to do something. Maybe it's just like, this article reminded me of you, or like, you the other day at work, you were talking about this video game, and I just saw this news about this video game. Isn't that neat? Just like Real softball stuff where you already know it's going to be welcome. Then, once you've done that a few times and the world doesn't end and you get a positive response, then do things that feel like a safe bet but are not a guaranteed, I know this person is obsessed with this thing. Like, here's a funny video that I thought might fit your humor. Something, again, where it's not going to cause offense. Worst thing that happens is the person just doesn't watch it because they don't check their Instagram DMs, and just keep slowly expanding that window. Like, I mean, if it were me, I would set it as like weekly homework for myself because I'm like very like, systematizing like that. You don't have to do it that way if you don't want. You can look for opportunities. But think of what are the small ways today or this week that I can socially initiate with someone. How can I ask a question? How can I ask for help? How can I offer something helpful? How can I invite someone to share in something with me? And this can all be digital. It can all be via text if you don't want to do it face to face or verbally. But then, okay, now that I've done this one small step, what's the next slightly bigger step that I can do? My book, Unmasking for Life, this would fall under the skill of engagement, that a lot of autistic people feel like we don't have the power to engage with others for a lot of reasons. And so what you want to do is you need to find more opportunities to practice engaging with people, sharing a thing, offering help, asking for help, asking questions, asking for clarification, sharing a story, showing something to someone, inviting them into your life in some small way. Do these things and work your way up until you're doing it more and more. And eventually, you will realize that you are in control of your social reality and you can make new friends. You can go out and meet people. You can invite people to do things, again, digitally or in person. You can throw parties, like whatever you want to do. Like, you can bring people together who have a shared interest in something and have a game night around it or whatever. Like, you actually do have that power. You just feel mortified right now and think you can't do it. And the way you get there is just little bit by little bit of taking charge of how you engage with people more often. And it can literally be just things like ending a conversation, being like, because that's an engagement skill too. Like, it was nice talking to you, but I gotta go. Asserting yourself, saying, I don't want to talk about this topic anymore. Can we talk about this? Like, any opportunity you get to insert your actual self into the interaction is an important opportunity. Saying, I don't want to go to that restaurant. It's too loud. Like, can we please pick somewhere else? That's engagement too. Like, you are inserting yourself as a person rather than like human lubricant, right? You want to make yourself have more friction, just a tiny bit more grit, a tiny bit more friction. And that'll make all the difference in the world. So start small. You can do it. You got this. You do it, and then you feel better. You don't wait to feel better and then do it. Good luck. Let me know how it goes. I also have an article about uh, being more disobedient that you might find helpful too. Yes, the cultural survey. There's an episode of Time Theft Today, live stream, archived on here, where Maddie and I did a whole survey on what is your culture? Do white people have a culture? And that was so fucking good. So fucking good. Grandcraft says, when it comes down to being liked, which isn't a bad thing, but how does one come to that conclusion if the person isn't communicating? Like, I don't mind ghosting, but how do I discern uninterest? You need to inhabit your own brain first. Are you enjoying what you're doing? Don't try to read the other person's mind. Like, with that question, you're still thinking about what does the other person want? No, 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 no. Let it go. Who cares? We don't know. We'll never know. What do you want? Are you sending the person messages and you almost never hear back from them? Are you still enjoying that? Are you feeling heard in the relationship? Are you getting anything positive out of the relationship? If, for example, you initiate the hangouts 9 times out of 10 and you're fine with that, then you're fine. If you like it, I love it. You know what I'm saying? Meanwhile, if you feel like a relationship is unbalanced and you really don't like having to do the work of being the first person to message every time and they never message back and you don't feel valued and you don't enjoy the time you spend together, then you are the one who is uninterested in the relationship as it actually is. Does that make sense? So it's not about, oh, this person is slow to text back. How can I divine through the patterns and the time sequences and the reactions whether they actually like me? You cannot. You cannot. What do you feel? Do you like messaging them? Is this even worth your fucking time? What do you want? What are you getting out of it? What actions do you enjoy doing? And if you are not enjoying the action anymore, don't do the action. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. We have to inhabit ourselves first. And if you're a hardcore masker, person who's constantly afraid of people being mad at you, it is so easy to lose track of that. But in our relationships, the question is more, what do I want to do? What do I feel excited about doing? That's all we ever actually have control over. Not how the other person feels, not how the other person behaves. We can't read their mind. All we can ask ourselves is, what do I want to do? And that's it. So hopefully that makes sense. Easy to say, hard to learn. Kat says, I am white. I am so sorry. I have indigenous blood, but I exist in the world as a white person. I did not mean to claim personal proximity to experiences that belong to my family, and I do not. Well, indigeneity isn't a race, as we've already talked about. There are black indigenous people, there are white indigenous people. Indigeneity, for the most part, is defined by how that community defines it, which is usually kinship ties and a relationship to the land and a experience of being oppressed by the state. So you might have the privileges of a settler, like I certainly do, and I don't have like enough close ties to my family that is indigenous to claim that. Though I try to reconnect in the ways that I can, and wherever you are on that spectrum of relation, that's valid, you know. Like, and I don't think, like, one, you can be white and be indigenous because indigenous is not a race, and two, like, colonization has tried to separate people from their ancestral ties and send people to residential schools, adopt indigenous kids into white families, make people try to pass as white, which is what my family did. Like, it was an act of cultural destruction. And so I think like, it's not being a pretendian or like claiming some struggle you don't have to say, like, I have these ties and I'm trying to understand them and I'm trying to learn these things about this culture in the ways that are appropriate for me to participate in. um I think that's a to me that's decolonial work, you know. And going back to how a lot of indigenous traditions are, you don't have to have the blood to be a part of the community. Like, since the beginning, they talk about this in Dawn of Everything. Since the beginning of colonization, there were settlers who left the settlements and joined indigenous nations here in Turtle Island and were welcomed and accepted as a member of the tribes. There were, like, you know, originally French, you know, fur trappers who joined indigenous tribes all throughout North America. The Seminole is a tribe composed entirely of people who had fled, either tribes that had been massacred or freed or escaped slaves, etc., enslaved people. So, you know, it's not about blood. It's about culture and oppression and a relationship to the land, and, like, I don't know. Yeah, I'm really glad to hear you talk about it because it sounds like already you have much closer family ties to it and experiences of this stuff than I do. And so I always want to connect more and learn more. So, uh, 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 hit the bricks. Courage to be disliked is on my bedside to read queue. Hell yeah. Step on the bricks consensually. Several meanings there. Yeah, there are a lot of conversations happening on the Discord that are extremely triggering and upsetting for me to read. I'm simply not ready for that conversation, but I try to remind myself that everyone is, as you said, generally aligned on values and have good neutral intentions. So when a conversation is about something that upsets me, I just bounce. Yeah, we talk about triggering stuff. There's some people that we've asked that, like, use or content warning tags just because they are talking about stuff that's very triggering, um, like age regression stuff, and it's okay to not want to be like, ooh, no, I'm really uncomfortable with that conversation and I don't want to see it or talk about it. Like, and it's so cool that I'm so glad you're still around in the server when you can be and when you want to be, because you're fucking cool. And it's just really nice that I can kind of trust that people are gonna ask if they need some kind of help, ask for it, flag me or the mod team if there's like somebody posting fucked up like spam or like hate speech, which has only happened like once or twice. And otherwise, people just do their thing. And we can trust them to do their thing, etc. And it says, I'm excited to share about anti-Zionist Jewishness. Oh, I'm so glad to see you share about it, please. And we have quite a few anti-Zionist Jewish people in the server. Oral tradition, yes. I love hearing the stories. Do it scared. Yep. That's the thing. Do it mass, do it scared, do it unready, do it messy, do it incomplete. Say it wrong. That's another big one I've been saying lately. Say it wrong, but say it. Distress tolerance. People like to be helpful. Yes. I think it is a really core human need, is to be needed. We want it. David Graeber talks about it a lot in Bullshit Jobs. That's why part of why people hate meaningless fuck off jobs is because people actually do want to feel like they're doing things that matter. And that's part of why laziness does not exist. People want to do things that matter. We want our lives to have meaning. It's so wild how in DPT it's called distress tolerance, but it's actually de-escalating, regulating. Appreciate how in Unmasking for Life it's about being with the feeling. Oh, I'm glad it hits that way. I like a lot of DBT stuff, but it's DBT has its limitations and can sometimes be used to emotionally invalidate people. So it's nice when it's something a little different. Transpeak says, I'm trying to pre-apologize less. DJ Andion says it's difficult to think of the steps for how to start. This is very helpful. Thank you. Yeah, I also have some tips on initiating with people in my Autistic Social Butterflies Guide to Making Friends essay. So that has some small steps of like, here's just put some events in the calendar, go to the event. You know, like step one is like look up some social events, put them in the calendar. Step two is go to an event. You don't have to do anything, say anything, talk to anyone. You don't have to enjoy it. Just go to the event. Do that a couple times. Next step is, okay, now find the ways to participate in the event that you want to participate in. Cleaning up, sweeping up afterwards, asking a question, offering to help with something. Just find some way to participate that you want to participate in. And then the next step is participate with somebody, engage with somebody. And then if you like the person, then maybe you can invite them to hang out after the event, like stuff like that. And there is stuff in the Friends chapter of Unmasking for Life as well. Riding the emotion, noticing it, finding ways to cope in some way. Yes. In DBT, it means putting cold water on your face, which sometimes is fine. But, like, sometimes just let yourself be insane about it helps so much better than trying to, I don't know, do something else. Just be it. Just be crazy for a little bit. And knowing that it won't last forever, but that it's real. I don't know. Like self-acceptance rather than trying to resolve. Yes. And that's why you have to say the thing. Like you might think, oh, I'm not supposed to feel this way. But you gotta say the thing. Yeah, thanks for being here, Nooch. Yeah, rip Unmasking for Life off of Anna's archive. Like pirate it, please, with my blessing. Get the book from the library, whatever you want to do. And I hope you enjoy it. And if there's anything that I mentioned here that you need links for, like ask the Discord chat and somebody can probably grab it. And I'll try to remember to put it in the show notes, and I'll almost certainly forget. Actually, let me pull up some of the links so that I'll remember while I'm here. Autistic Social Butterflies Guide to Making Friends. White Woman Solidarity Brain. That one's already linked in the piece. Etc. says, turning I think they don't like me into I do not feel liked by this person. Yeah. Ask yourself, do I like them? And sometimes the answer is yes. You can like someone who doesn't like you back and just be like, well, they're interesting, they're entertaining, I admire certain qualities about them, but we're never going to be friends. That's okay. But also, a lot of times, if somebody doesn't like you, there's not much to like about them because they're not being nice to you and you're not doing anything meaningful together. So, like, why are you making them into some symbol of whether you're lovable? Thanks for being here, Synecdoche, and thank you for your question that inspired this piece and this conversation. This was so nice. This was so fun. Some DPT is like trying to make you fix it, and some DPT is way more accepting. I think some people just practice it like it's CBT. What am I getting out of this is such a good question, though. Yeah. What do I want? What am I getting out of this? And what do I want to do? Like, okay, the situation is the situation. What do I want to do? What do I feel like doing right now? Because that centers back on what is possible and what is your side of the street, you know? Because we can always make choices about what we want to do, even if it's just like, what do I want to think about right now while I'm stuck at work, you know? In my mind palace. I just want to go to the Olive Garden with a baddie. Blair. I want to go to Olive Garden. I really like the Olive Garden. I'd be down to go to Olive Garden next time you're in town. Yeah. Definitely helped me when I had no regulation moments, but now I'm doing parts work and it means I'm being with the screaming voices in my head. Yeah, you don't have to be afraid of those voices. I think sometimes like CBT, DBT can make people really afraid of like the crazy in them. And it's like, no, listen to the crazy. If you're not doing any behaviors that's like fucking your life up, because that's step one of DBT that like Marsha Linehan was all about, was like, are you making your life worse? You're feeling this awful feeling. Are you about to do something that's going to make your life worse? And if the answer is no, then you can kind of go ham. Like you can be crazy in your mind as long as you're not doing stuff that's behaviorally alienating people, hurting your body, threatening your life, threatening your future livelihood in ways that you're going to like regret or whatever. Oh, there's so much good stuff in this chat. We could just go on all day. Oh, we're talking about the dignity of risk again, too. The right to make bad choices and how important that is in disability organizing. Listen to the crazy. It often has something to say. Yes, and Trans Peaks, if you don't follow her on Instagram, she's had some really great posts just kind of reflecting on lessons from psychosis and lessons from the crazy. And that's something that's been really pivotal lately in my relationships too, is just telling people like, here's what the crazy part of my brain is feeling or thinking and saying it wrong and just saying it and seeing that people aren't afraid of this part of yourself that you've felt that you've had to mask all the time and often that people have rejected, especially for people with psychosis. Finding places where you can say, here's what's going on, and you're respected and loved all the same is so special. So cheers to that. All right, well that done, I am gonna end the stream for the night, rest my voice a little bit, get some water, eat a breakfast taco that's been cooling on my table this whole time. This stream is gonna be in 2 parts just because the stream stopped and started and it's on YouTube and everything. But it'll be on YouTube in the essays tab along with all my other essays. You can check out the Time Theft Today streams also on my YouTube channel, and I'll also email this out to the Substack followers, the subbies. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. This was so fun. It's great to be back after a fun little holiday break. And the next piece coming up on the Substack is another longin', and it is a review of Justine Champigne's Needle Lake and a discussion of how autistic people are depicted in media. So that'll be coming out soon, probably on the 15th. So thanks for being here, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for your great questions. And yeah, I love you too, Annika. Thank you for being my friend. And thanks everybody for participating in this conversation. Good shit.